Raging Loop, if you want to get a little nutty with it. Welcome to the stream, It's Raging Loop time on a Tuesday night. Let's read for a few hours. Yeah? That's me. I'm banging on my chair. I'm getting everyone pumped. If you clicked in this video and you're not pumped, get pumped. We're reading Raging Loop. Short little recap, right? Recap. We basically, after 2 streams ago, getting to a very deep run as far as timeline goes, but then seeing some monster thing that's threatening to destroy Japan or whatever, and then the cartoonist sheep being like, hey, you gotta fucking save the world, go back in time and do things. And so he was tasked with, like, gameplay wise getting the rest of the keys, but story wise, what I'm thinking this manifests in, what this is manifesting in is that I'm going to all these random little points and like knowledge. I'm picking up little bits of knowledge from the characters we've met along the way. We had a lot of the, probably, I'm not thinking too hard about it. Well, we had a Chiemi moment. So, and Chiemi's been an important character. But really, other than Chiemi, it was Mamiya and it was Nosato. Kinosuke, Nosato. So 2 characters that weren't like directly in the limelight kind of thing. And I think that's probably intentional on their part, to try to give a little bit more shine to lesser fleshed out characters, ones that we weren't like directly constantly working with. Like when you think about like our main character Haruaki and then his time with like Nosato and Mamiya, like very limited time, right? So I assume this is, I don't want to say fan services per se, but I think this is like, hey, let's give a little bit of interaction between these characters we barely had any time to like really develop anything with, between main character and those guys. But I digress. We go back in these little pockets of time to like, I think what's happening is pick up little bits of information, and either the game is going to pull this off and all these bits of information that seemingly seem whatever, are going to manifest in like this aha brain blast moment that's going to save everything or solve the mystery, or it's all going to be fumbled like a big pot of pasta that's just dumped on the kitchen floor, like I did several days ago. And so, like, I don't know. I'm giving it a chance. We're gonna see, obviously. So we spent time with Mamiya, and she told me all about fucking spiders, names of spiders, names of places, a lot of proper nouns being said by Mamiya when we spent time with her about spiders and different places in Japan and all this, and like lore. She was going on and on about spiders. Great, love that. I love spiders as much as the next guy. Then we spent time with Chiemi back when we were having drinks with her way earlier in the game. And basically, that was the most important one. I don't want to come across as biased because I like Chiemi as much as probably one of my favorite characters in this game. But at least direct, like, hey, this is a big important thing. It confirmed my previous thoughts and realizations that Chiemi is also time looping with us. So there's at least 2 of us here, both me and her. It all made sense. I called it really early. I'm not even trying to take like a victory lap, because it seemed pretty obvious that the way she was acting at certain moments, like, and it only like story-wise makes sense if there was someone else also time looping with us. But basically confirmed in a very weird way that she's also doing that. She did some murdering. There was like towards the end of it, it just became unraveled a bit, where she was like, oh, I'm gonna murder you because we're looping forever, so it doesn't matter, and it's like the cuteness aggression. She wanted to murder me because she loved me so much. That was basically what she was saying. She's like, I'm gonna keep murdering you because I love you so much, or something like that. It's like, okay, Chiemi, whatever, it's fine, sure, okay. But that seemed important. Seems like the most important. The most outwardly facing, this is a very important bit of knowledge to have. Then we had, and we're currently on with Kyonosuke Nosato. We go into his mansion, he's got his thing, and we tell him, hey, this is gonna be fucking weird and you're not gonna believe me, but I'm looping and doing all this weird shit. You gotta trust me, bro. And then Nosato is like, okay, let me take you into the bowels of my mansion or something. And then it was like, hey, let's read some textbooks. And that's basically, last stream of this, we were getting so much. There was so much like lore dump from Nosato. He was dumping all over us. Just big old dumps all over us of the lore variety. And I was like, all right, we got to call it there. I think, was this Sunday? I think it was Sunday. I was like, let's break this up. So that's where we're in right now. Nosato's lore dump. And we'll continue to read. Get pumped. Prepare to be dumped upon. The next section was started out by Kyonosuke-shi's great-grandfather, but after his writing grew worse and worse and finally stopped, his son took over. According to Kyonosuke-shi, his great-grandfather had gotten a mental illness and began acting eccentric. He'd seen it with his own eyes. The final reasonable bits of writing left behind by him cursed his deteriorating mind and hoped that his descendants would take over his research. His wish was fulfilled when Kyonosuke-shi's grandfather found this room and took over. Little music box music back in. This section was primarily made to give detailed descriptions to the outdated rites and customs of Fushioshi. Naturally, the lack of historical accounts was a hindrance. However, the documents owned by the Nosato family and the knowledge he gained as a head made it possible to do it. He was also married to someone with ties to the Miguruma, so he was also gained access to some Miguruma records. Having gathered info from various sources, he reached some reliable conclusions, though his efforts to gather information had made him the target of the other head families. His mind also seemed to deteriorate during his twilight years. Final bits of writing in the diary seemed to scream his fear of death. He died on May 1st, 15 years ago. The text here made it evident that he died in the feast of the Yomi Purge. As the hand of the supernatural looms over us and takes our lives, I realize that I'm losing control of my mind. It's like me every Wednesday. Now that I've seen the might of the god I was to venerate, what duty do I have to continue the previous head's research into our homeland of Fushioshi? I will probably be hanged tomorrow, and in all honesty, it seems like a favorable outcome at this point. What if the irresistible urge to sleep faded and I opened my eyes to see the wolf-faced god? I'd be unable to bear the fear. The wolfsbane I shall use to end my life lies in my hand. At least we're speeding through it because it's not voiced as well. You just get a bunch of me reading. And that was it. Kyonosuke-shi's voice was shaking. From what he said, oh my god, is this really going to be the end of it? So I didn't even need to break it up and I could have just powered through. From what he said, his grandfather was an intelligent gentleman that he knew personally and respected immensely. Anyway, the text here could be summed up as thus. Yeah, give me a TLDR, please. Please? Just the briefest. Fushioshi had several strange rites and customs. When combined with the ones unique to specific head families, the number grew exponentially. It revealed all the details about these things and even had info we really didn't care about right now. Yeah. The content about the Umatsu was particularly harsh, even though it was noted that not everything was here. Info about the Miguruma, however, was extremely limited. However, it was said that horrible screams could be heard from their storehouse. That day, I playfully opened the iron door to the basement of the third lookout. I was told never to go there, and the door had that symbol on it. And it was a morbidly interesting read, but there was only one thing that mattered to us. It was the custom of lynching in Yasumisu. It was basically describing the feast of the Yomi Purge. The Okami-sama would return from Yomi to get revenge for being killed. The story was the same. There were two notable points here. One was that it had apparently begun about 500 years ago after the village closed itself off from the world, and the other was that Kami Fujiyoshi was mostly uninvolved in the feast of that era. Kinosuke-shi's grandfather examined the feast's origin from various angles. He investigated the stones in the Hanging Pines graveyard, looked at the records of Kami Fujiyoshi's mason, and concluded that Kami Fujiyoshi were making the graves. And according to the mason records, the Okibo were placed at Yasumizu at this time too. 500 years of history was enough to make it a historic landmark, but there were no megaliths from millennia BCE. They were simply put there to help turn the village into a great Lord Shinai worshipping holy ground. The words left behind by the elders of Kami Fujiyoshi and Yasumizu gave us even more info. There was a legend that in a time when samurai still existed, Yomibito poured out of Yasumizu and attacked Kami Fujiyoshi. That coincidence with the rebellion Kinosuke-shi had mentioned, the reason why the head families oppress Yasumizu. Looking at both the documents and word of mouth, the rebellion had happened 5 centuries ago, shortly before the village became isolated. In Yasumizu, Yomibito were said to be scary creatures completely covered in blood water. You could find the word bloodwater by playing with the kanji in the name Saranaga. Bloodwater Rapids, the stream was considered corrupted even half a millennium ago. Anyway, though the legend was warped by superstition, there was no denying that Kami Fujiyoshi was attacked by people covered in Saranaga mud. The grandfather concluded, without a doubt, that this incident was what made Kami Fujiyoshi people so afraid of Yasumizu. This rebellion was the very cause of the decades of isolation, the creation of the Shinai faith, and the start of the feast of the Yomi Purge. As for what that meant, it was all planned for the purpose of holding the already discriminated Yasumizu down and preventing further rebellion. The grandfather thought that Yasumizu was purposely created to be discriminated against. It was a bad, dangerous place to live in. The reason why it wasn't abandoned wasn't mentioned here, but anyway, people continued calling it home. In governing, intentionally creating a lower class and treating them poorly satisfied the upper class and thus made their governance easier. It was something you saw all over the world. Even in Japan, there was complicated historical discrimination that left its mark even on the current era. Thus, the presence of a settlement meant to be looked down upon was good for the leaders of that era. However, they didn't want any more rebellions. So how could they stop it? One way was to make them fight amongst themselves. Another was to make them so superstitious they wouldn't even think of rebelling. Basically, they had to make them believe the lie that there were wolves among them who were killing people, causing them to kill each other. By doing that, they would sap any strength Yasumizu needed to rebel. They also prepared a background story to make them believe that the anomaly was actually real. The grandfather guessed that this was the true purpose of the 5-century-old religion. His sources for that were the documents gathered by his predecessor, which claimed that people from the local temples and shrines were called into the village. He assumed that the incomplete or intentionally destroyed records were those regarding the scholars they summoned to help create the religion. That seemed absurd at first, but after thinking about it, was entirely reasonable. The settlement they'd looked down upon had bared their fangs at them, so what did they do? Call smart people for help. That was natural. And so, those scholars teamed up, created a new religion, and made the settlement fight itself. And if they'd given the head families roles in their legends to ensure proper control, man, it sounded messed up, but it didn't seem impossible.
逆だよ。あれは上藤吉の者が読み人かもしれない安水の者と目を合わさずに済ませるためにつけさせたものだ。
It's the other way around. It's so that the people of Kami Fujiyoshi wouldn't have to look into the eyes of the people of Yasumizu, who may or may not be Yomibito. They wanted to avoid eye contact not only because they thought they were corrupted, but also because they were afraid. Kami Fujiyoshi was afraid of Yasumizu. It was a possibility I wouldn't have considered before, but it also seemed likely. It'd be pretty scary if the people they looked down upon finally let their grudge take over and become fearful marauders ready to enact their revenge. And because they were aware of how badly they treated the settlement, the guilt grew even larger, and they started controlling and discriminating against them even further. When you looked at it that way, they'd made a whole religion just to protect themselves. And boy, was that insane. And boy, was that crazy. Now with the feast's origin revealed, what was that about the head families not being involved in it so much? Apparently, first feasts were a lot simpler than the current one. There was the purification, sheltering, dreaming, and the limit of 1 per day, but there was no actual punishment for breaking these laws. They'd probably set it up to prevent indiscriminate massacres. Also, there's no wolf selection, and there were no guardians. The heads, or Fushioshi leaders of that time, only circulated the Yasumisu legend that the wolves came back. By spreading the local legend along with a lie, they motivated the people to kill each other whenever the mists appeared. It was successful, and the people started killing suspected wolves every time the mist showed up. In response to that, those who spread the suspicions were brutalized at night. This weakened Yasumisu left the place a breeding ground for future problems, and too weak to rebel.
待て、そんなバカな、おかしいだろう。そんなことで殺し合いが起きるはずがない。
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Why would they kill each other just because of that?
実際の脅威がないのに殺し合いが起きるというのか。
How can there be murders without any real threat?
昔は今とは違います。迷信が殺し合いに発展してもおかしくない。
The past isn't the present. There were times when superstition could make people murder one another.
先々代さんは初めから死刑という言葉を使ってます。僕はこれが重要だと思う。
Your grandfather uses the word lynch right from the start. I think that's important.
おそらく読み耳の宴は安水の住人たちにとって役立つものだったんです。
I think that the Feast of the Yomi Purge was actually useful to the people of Yasumisu too.
どういうことだ。
What do you mean?
先に進みましょう。
Let's keep reading. Sure enough, the grandfather seemed to believe that, to the people of Yasumisu, the feast made the killings into a just cause. According to this, the feast wasn't considered a paranormal event, not even by the Yasumisu people themselves. It was just a justification for lynching. The hand of the law didn't reach this backwards village, and Yasumisu was even more isolated, a settlement for the ostracized. Of course, there had to be conflicts and wrongdoings, and the social system to solve them was limited. Thus, there was demand for solutions beyond the law, and the feast fit the bill perfectly. When the mist came, they could easily get rid of people they didn't like. However, that came with the risk of being targeted by their friends and family. This continuous cycle of lynchings and revenge eventually destroys the minority and leaves the majority wounded. The feast ends, and law returns to Yasumisu. Seemed like the ostracism they'd done in ancient Greece. Anyone who was against the law of the village had their names written on pottery and voted to be exiled, a backwards but effective way to keep order. Though, while the punishment there was exile, the feast came with a death penalty. It was clearly unjust, but they found it better than nothing. By having these occasional unlawful disputes, they actually prevented the settlement as a whole from crumbling. Those who participated in lynchings had their guilt lessened by considering the legends and myths. Superstition had real-world effects. By telling people that they'd be hanged if they were bad, the renegades among them would be silenced. So yeah, the Feast of the Yomi Purge had its perks for both Kami Fushioshi and Yasumisu. Also, apparently, it was a long-running tradition for Kami Fushioshi to do certain things immediately before the mist came. They summoned the children of Yasumisu to Kami Fushioshi and called the women to help them with food. There was no end to these records. It was much like the mountain festival, the carrot for the stick that constantly provided the settlement. But it was also a form of population control. They didn't want Yasumisu to be completely depopulated, so they protected the children. This tradition was alive to this day. Even 8 years ago, Tai-san, Kaori-san, and the children had been saved from the feast when they were called. So, while it had its roots in superstition, the Feast of the Yomi Purge became a kind of a social tool.
なるほど。統制されたリンチ。いいな。これはもう合議による死刑制度と言っていいだろう。
I see. Controlled lynching. Perhaps capital punishment by popular vote.
我々上藤吉の人間に都合のいい形で安水の中で完結する死刑制度。
It's only useful to us Kami Fushioshi people, and it doesn't spread outside of Yasumisu. Kami
これでは
Fushioshi.
室たちが言うように完全に長者は悪者ではないか。
Muro and the youths are right. The village heads are the bad guys here.
それはどうでしょう。当時の統治者たちは当時なりの良識感覚で良い統治を目指しただけかもしれない。
I'm not sure about that. The leaders from that era might have intended this to be a kindness meant to ensure stability.
問題は現代に至るまでその統治が続いてしまっていることですが。
The problem is that it continues to this day.
そうだ。今の安水ならこんなことが起きるはずがないのだ。
Yes, this is something that shouldn't be happening in Yasumisu today.
そう書いてありますか？
Is that what it says?
戦中戦後に 宴は3度あったとされているな。
It says that there were 3 feasts during and after the war. The feast meant to manage society had ended with the one that began at the start of World War II. When Kinosuke grandfather wrote this, he called it the previous feast. The ones who survived it said that an actual wolf had appeared. Also, rules like sheltering, which had been ignored until then, now came with a supernatural punishment. The legend had gone from mere story to reality. The grandfather himself had witnessed some paranormal things too. There was a pile of dog corpses that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The thorough, violent deaths given to the rule breakers. The wolves who could come in through locked doors and brutalize the ones inside. And finally, the unity between the wolves, hell-bent on killing the humans even if it meant their own death. That was the feast I knew. The next test was written by the previous head, Kinosuke's father, and he'd observed the third feast of the recent times. It was the one that happened 8 years ago, and its survivors mentioned impossible paranormal events that actually happened. It was the same, the exact same. The feast had been supernatural 3 times in a row. And this was the 4th one. That meant that something had drastically changed with the feast that happened during the war. The reason for that wasn't given here.
大丈夫ですか？ショックだとは思います。少し休みますか？
Are you okay? It must be shocking. Should we take a break?
いや、いい。一気に読んでしまおう。次は我が父が主にまとめた記述だな。
No, I'm fine. Let's keep reading. Next is the text left by my father. Thanks, game. Okay, like Kinosuke said, the final section of the diary... Oh, final section, here we go. Progress. The final section of the diary was written by the previous head of the Nosato family. He'd inherited the will of his predecessors and tried solving this mystery. Though, unlike them, he seemed to prioritize documents that had been released to the public. For one, there were cutouts of articles. He'd taken various clippings from newspapers and magazines to create an extremely large scrapbook. There were bits from local newspapers, national ones, and both general and specialized magazines of varied renown. Basically, he'd gathered all the info regarding Fujiyoshi, no matter how minor. Of course, we didn't have the time to look through all of them, so we relied on the index in the diary. We found out that the small village had a number of unexpectedly major events happen in it. They were so big that they actually made it to national newspapers. Some of the oldest and more notable ones were the articles about the serial murders here that had happened here over 60 years ago. There were a number of articles with titles like 20 deadly break-ins in Fujiyoshi and murders in 20 houses in Mountain Village, and I found that number to be significant. Though the number of places that had been attacked was 20, the number of casualties was 17. 8 more were injured. Regardless, it was definitely big enough to make a mark on Japanese history. This event was well covered for something that happened in the eve of World War II, and it ended with the culprit being sent to Tokyo and quickly executed. The incident was reported for 2 years, from when it came to light right up to the capital punishment. It could be summed up like this. On December 27th, 1940 in Fujiyoshi village, Kami Fujiyoshi, Hochizuki, a man covered in mud invaded a private dwelling. He quickly used the kitchen knife he had to attack 2 of the people inside, destroy property, then escape. One of the victims went on to die. The culprit went on to continue invading houses in Hochizuki, murder, and destroy property. After 30 minutes of this, he escaped Fujimura by foot. Crime was so sudden that the inhabitants and the local police couldn't do anything about it before it was over. The incident came to light when the local police reported it to the Metropolitan Police. Since cars weren't widespread in the area yet, doctors from the surrounding villages hurried over with their horse-drawn carriages. That was how much of a big deal it was. The police had gathered a number of officers and established a perimeter to surround the culprit, but in the end, they failed to arrest him. The witnesses, bloodstains, and the lost items made them conclude that the culprit had changed his clothes somewhere up the mountain, then escaped by going down the river. They followed after him, but since it was the end of the year and it was hard to get around, it took them time to find proper footprints. On January 3rd of the following year, prefecture police noted that the perimeter was broken, but this wasn't reported. The investigations that followed bore no fruit, and the newspapers and magazines wrote a lot about the escaped or hidden murderer. But then, at one afternoon at the end of January, a man showed up in a police station in Mangetsubashi, Tokyo, and said that he was the murderer who'd escaped Fujiyoshi. There'd been much speculation about where the culprit was from, but it turned out that he was actually a local, which raised a few questions. One of them was, why couldn't the locals figure out who it was? This question was left unanswered, and the man who turned himself in, Kihei Tochitani, 30 years old, became a subject of significant controversy. From this point on, the major newspapers simply reported how the trial was going, while the magazines just had a ton of opinion pieces. Kinosuke-shi's father commented that the Miguruma were actively keeping journalists from entering Yasumizu. At the same time, they didn't resist the police and in fact were highly cooperative. But in the end, Yasumizu wasn't really mentioned in the trial reports. Could have been the weak legislative system of the time or the result of the Miguruma's efforts. Under such circumstances, they held Kihei Tochitani's trial. Probably butchering that name. He insisted on several things. That he was too drunk to remember the details. However, he was certain that he was the murderer. He had lived in that area and was on bad terms with the neighbors to that point of holding a serious grudge. When he sobered up, he became scared and ran away, and since he knew he couldn't keep running forever, he just turned himself in. He was too afraid to return to Fujiyoshi. Some had found a statement that he'd attacked 20 households in 30 minutes questionable, but it was a trial under significant public scrutiny. And since Kihei Tochitani admitted to the crime, he was executed based solely on that. It happened 2 years after his arrest. The capital punishment was carried out, and he departed this world without further comment of note. The news agencies were now all covering World War II, so these serial murders ended up being forgotten. Also, Kinosuke-shi's father noted something about him. 3 years before the incident, Kihei Tochitani had been sent to Yasumizu because of trouble with his neighbors.
気になりますね。
This is interesting.
そうだな。おそらくこれは土地谷喜兵衛が読み人伝説を模倣し起こした事件だ。
It is. Kihei Tochitani probably based his crime on the Yomibito legends.
安水での暮らしがそう長いわけでもないのに、そんな事件を。
He wasn't in Yasumizu for long, yet he went and did something so awful.
富士吉村民に共通の読み人を恐れる気持ちが裏返しとなり、恐ろしき読み人と同一化を試みたのかもしれんな。
All of Fujiyoshi is afraid of Yomibito, so maybe it turned it around and tried becoming one with them to seem scary.
あるいは長者が地質する大昔の反乱のことをどこかで聞いていたか。
Or perhaps he'd heard of the old rebellion that we village heads know about.
そして僕が気にしているのはこの時期のことです。
I'm mostly curious about the timing.
この事件が起きてからおよそ2年後に例の戦中の本物の宴が発生している。
The feast during the war, the first real one, happened about 2 years after this incident.
まるで同じではないか。
It's like a repeat.
そうです。500年前、反乱を起こした連中を抑え込むために信内信仰なんてものをでっち上げたあのことと。
Yes, it's like that time 500 years ago when they created the Shinai faith to keep the rebels in check. Of course, there were no mentions of the feast in the articles. The next notable thing was the time when the war ended and the soldiers returned to Fujiyoshi. These news articles were accompanied by village PR notices and photos. One of the men in the photos had the name Shosaburo Makishima. That face and expression, I had no doubt that he was related to Kanzo Makishima. Many from Fujiyoshi had departed for the war, and naturally, some of them were from Yasumizu. Also, according to the reports, they had a notably good survival rate. They'd also achieved a lot on the front lines, and the PR said it was the blessing of the Okami-sama. In a different document, it was said that they had charms that resembled the Okami symbols used in the Mountain Festival. There was a photo that showed one of these crests, wrinkled from wear. The shape was new to me. However, the 3 diamond-like symbols made me think that it was related to the ones I was familiar with, which was actually pictured here. The text next to it said that some chose to wear ominous symbols instead. For reference, there was the divine crest of Great Lord Shinai. It was actually my first time seeing it, and apparently they couldn't use it as a good luck charm because it was just too important. Well then, if it was that sacred, it made sense that I hadn't seen it in Yasumizu. It was a bad place after all. Next, we skipped the unimportant bits, such as the election results and major staff changes. We went ahead a few decades and arrived at an article from the 80s. This was pretty bad. Cholera outbreak in Mountain Village, 4 dead. It was a pretty simple incident. Apparently, someone who'd gone on a trip overseas had infected the village. The name of patient 0 was hidden, but it had to be one of the village heads. They were the only ones here who could travel to other countries. It was damn awful to read about, but apparently, the disease spread through water contaminated by the first victim's vomit and excreta. And there were victims in both Fujiyoshi as well as Yasumisu. Also, it was only reported after the disease had subsided, which was probably caused by the Miguruma intelligence network.
これ、時期的には野里さんもご存知のはずの事件ですよね。中学生かそこらですか？
Looking at when it happened, you should have been alive during this, right? You were in middle school, I assume.
その通り。もちろん知っているとも。何しろ私もかかったからね。
Yes, I know about it too well. I was infected myself after all.
え、コレラにですか？
Huh? You had cholera?
ああ、そうだ。というか、あれには相当の人数がやられたからな。特に、安水の連中が。
Yes, in fact, it got to a lot of people, especially here in Yasumisu.
なんですって？今おられる方も。
What? Even though still here?
確か、そうだな。牧島王やら、山脇さんやら。あとはそうだ。室もかかっていたはずだぞ。
It happened to Sir Makishima, Yamawaki-san, and oh yes, even Muro had it.
大事だったんですね。
The outbreak must have been pretty big.
その通りだ。後で知ったところによれば、野里は早々にコレラだということを看破していたのに、身車の連中が。
It was. Later on, I found out that the Nosato quickly identified it as cholera, but the Miguruma...
一体何が？
Huh? What?
コレラにこそ神内様の加護が効くとか言って、わけのわからん祈祷を行って、野里の措置を妨害したのだよ。
They made the absurd claim that Shinai-sama's protection would make short work of the cholera, and performed some strange ritual while attempting to prevent the Nosato from applying proper treatment.
おかげで状況は悪化し、遅れて発症した私は、身内が後回しだと言ってかなり捨て置かれたのだ。
Thanks to that, the situation grew worse, and I, who got infected late, had my treatment postponed because I was one of us.
医者の鏡みたいな家ですね。野里家は。
I see the Nosato are a family of model doctors.
鏡なものか。単に身車が示す順に治療していただけだ。
As if. We simply adhere to the order established by the Miguruma.
もちろん、安水は長く捨て置かれ、結果的に住人2名と、看病に当たった植松の者2名が死んだ。
Of course, Yasumisu was low on the list, and that caused the deaths of 2 infected, and 2 Uematsu who were treating the people.
なんですって？植松が2名？
What? 2 Uematsu?
あの頃、植松にはまだ数人が残っていたが、そのほとんどが民間療法を行って逆に病気に感染してしまっていた。
The Uematsu still had a few members back then, but most of them were infected while trying to make use of their folk medicine.
それが露見した時は、すでに手の施しようがないほど悪化した2名がそのまま亡くなったのだよ。
Once that was found out, the disease had advanced so much that they were beyond help and died soon after.
あれが植松の没落を決定づけたと言っても過言ではなかろう。身車が適切な指示をしていれば。
It's safe to say that event sealed the fate of the Uematsu. If the Miguruma had handled things properly.
いや、違うな。野様。クス氏の家が連中のことなど聞かず、正しく動いていればよかったのだ。
No, that's not it. If the Nosato had done what any proper family doctors would do and simply ignored them and done the right thing.
ちなみに、植松里香子さんは病気にはかからなかったんですか？
By the way, was Rikaku Uematsu-san infected?
彼女は当時9歳だぞ。その家業に加わるには まだ若い。
She was only 5 at the time. Surely you understand that she was too young to partake in the family trade.
ああ、なるほど。
Oh, I see. I knew what he meant, but something didn't feel right. His eyes betrayed a sense of confusion, and his tone lacked confidence.
何か隠されていますか？
Are you hiding something?
何もない。
No?
いや、何でもない。
Me when I'm hiding something? No!
これも我が藤吉村の期待を示す証左ではあろうが、宴とは直接は関係あるまい。
It's nothing. Anyway, though this shows how warped Fujiyoshi is, it's not directly related to the feast.
そうですね。
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't push any further this time. Another major article was one about a corpse that had washed up on the local part of Saranaga, officially known as Saranagawa, apparently. It was a woman from Chiba, and she'd had a search party out for her. It said that she'd simply committed suicide.
これは読み意味の宴と関係あります？
Is this related to the feast?
いや、これまでの宴とは日付が合わない。おそらく関係のない自殺者だろう。
No. The date doesn't match any of the feasts so far. She must be just an unrelated suicide victim.
バカな町の奴らが山ん中で首つって獣に食われることもある。俺やおやっさんが苦労して片付ける羽目になる。
Then there's the idiots from the city, coming here just to hang themselves or getting eaten by wild beasts. Me and the old man always had to deal with the mess.
サラナガに死体が流れることも珍しくねえ。渓流釣りだかなんだか知らねえが、上流は危ねえっつうのによ。
It's not rare for Saranaga to bring us corpses either. Don't know if they're mountain fishers or something, but it's dangerous upstream, damn it.
首都圏からの遠征自殺者ですか？
A city person who'd gone all the way here to die, huh?
まあ、うがってみるなら、長者の誰かが関わって殺したのかもしれんが、その場合はサラナガには流さんだろうよ。
Well, maybe one of the village heads had her killed, but if that's the case, he wouldn't have left her in Saranaga.
では、これはいいとして、
Then, let's ignore that.
この8年前の大雨災害がどうのっていうのは、藤吉とは関係ないように見えますが。
What's this about a heavy rain from 8 years ago, though? Doesn't seem related to Fujiyoshi.
逆に、
Heavy rain, the
藤吉が
video
乗ってい
game?
ないことが重要なのだろうよ。各地の土砂崩れは報道されているのに、藤吉のはないと。
I feel that it's important that Fujiyoshi's not mentioned there. There's reports of landslides over the area, but none for Fujiyoshi.
ああ、
Oh, I see. So even the ones who'd supposedly died in the landslide were hidden from the public.
あとは、めぼしいものはないか。
Besides that, there's nothing of note.
これは港区連続火災、放火の疑い。なんでこんな事件が？
What about this? Serial fires in Minato-ku, possibly arson. Why is it here?
手記に説明があるぞ。報道にはないが、放火された7軒の建物はすべて同じ持ち主のものだと。
It's explained in the diary. It's not reported, but all the 7 buildings set on fire belong to the same person.
というと、
What does that mean?
身車家だよ。連中は中だけではなく、外にも不動産を持っているのだ。
It's the Miguruma. They have real estate outside Fujiyoshi as well.
なるほど。そういった資産から収入を得てるのか。しかし一体どうしてそんな。
I see. So they gain funds that way too. But why would they do this?
宗教は儲かるということなんじゃないのかね。500年もの歴史があれば、もう新興宗教とは言えんだろう。
Because the religion is profitable, no? A faith with half a millennium of history behind it can't be considered new religion.
おそらくは我々のような骨の髄まで信内明神にやられている連中でない信内教の在外信者は多数いるのだよ。
There must be a lot of Shinai believers outside as well, though they're probably not as fanatical as us.
中には何代も前から玉串料とか言って 金銭を払っている者もいるのではないかね。
I imagine that some other families have been donating to the shrine for generations.
もしかして身車は宗教法人格を持ってますか？
Are the Miguruma a recognized religion?
さあ、そこまでは知らんね。しかし、そういうのは国からいろいろ口出しをされるのではないのかね。
I don't know that much, but I imagine that the country would be pretty involved with them if it was, no?
どうだろう。そっちは詳しくないな。
I don't know. I'm not well versed in that.
さて、このくらいでおしまいのようだが。
Now, this seems to be the end. Yeah, we read the entire diary. Oh, I felt it. Don't worry, game. A whole 3 hours had passed since we'd started. Honestly, we probably were at the, like, we probably read this section for like 3 hours going back to the last stream of this game. Maybe like 2.5, maybe 2.5 hours, maybe. Anyway, a whole 3 hours had passed since we'd started. The mist would come soon. I learned a lot from this. But if you asked me, all I'd gotten here were maybes. Nothing was certain yet. Even so, I thought it was more than enough for this loop. Turned to him and said, "Kill me!"
どうしようかね。我が父も結局、何かしらの真実にたどり着くことはできぬまま、狂って毒を煽ったか。
Oh, what to do? Looks like even father went insane and drank poison without reaching the truth.
私が君の言う通り、これから宴に巻き込まれて死ぬとすれば、我が兄がいずれこの後を継ぐのだろうかね。
If you're right and I'm about to die in the feast, my brother would probably follow his footsteps.
いや、君が死んでしまえば全てなかったことになるんだったか。これは結局どうにもならん。
Or wait, if you die, will this all have never happened? Oh dear, looks like there's nothing we can do. His wry grin pained my heart a bit. I had to say it.
申し訳ありません。野里清之助さん。
I'm sorry, Kirinosuke Nosato-san.
君が謝ることではなかろう。こんなバカなことをしている藤吉村が全ての元凶だ。
It's nothing you have to apologize for. It's Fujiyoshi's fault for doing something so absurd.
しかし結局、ここまで皆が狂気にとらわれる答えは何なのだ？
But what is the cause of the madness controlling everyone here?
迷信を信じる心と反乱を恐れる心、そんなものなのかね？
Is it really just a fear of superstition and rebellion?
いいえ、違います。
No, that's not it.
神様のせいです。
It's God's fault.
はあ？なんだ？君も結局は神仏に責任を転嫁するのかね？かつての野里の先達のように。
Huh? You too? You're going to shift blame to the divine just like my forefathers did?
そうだ。君はそもそも君が体験してきた数々の怪奇現象に対して科学的に説明がつくと言っていただろうに。
Also, you still haven't given an explanation for the paranormal happenings you'd experienced.
すみません。神様の件についても、おおむね科学的な、というか、理屈をつけることはできると思います。
I'm sorry, but I actually think I can give a scientific, or rather reasonable explanation for God.
何？
What?
ただ、これについては、まだ僕の中で完全にはまとまっていない。
Though, I still need to properly process this.
その代わり、他のものについては、ええ、説明はつきますね。
Instead, I can give clear explanations for everything else. I'd missed my chance to properly apologize. How much time did we have, I wondered. Would they wait for long?
では、読み意味の宴の不可思議をすべて紐解いてみたまえよ。
Then explain the mysteries of the feast.
必ず与えられるという汚れは一体どう説明するつもりなんだね。
How do you explain the inescapable corruption?
隠そうがどうしようが見つかり、断罪されるその理不尽さはどうやって成し得ると思っているのかね。
How does it find and punish you no matter how well you hide?
監視カメラと盗聴器です。
Cameras and listening devices. He stared blankly for a moment, then laughed.
何を言い出すのかと思えば監視カメラ
Of all the answers, cameras?
そんなもの戦時中にあったわけがないだろう
There's no way they'd had those in the war.
戦時中にあったとは言いませんよ。というか、8年前にあったかどうかもわからないです。
I'm not saying that they did. In fact, I'm not sure if there were any 8 years ago either.
ただ、低レベルなものはあったかもしれない。ぶっちゃけどこかに糸電話でも吊るしてあったのかもしれません。
Though there might have been something basic back then. Hell, it could have been 2 cans and a string.
あるいはシンプルにスパイを休みずに置いておくとかね。
Or perhaps they just put a spy in here.
物騒だ
Now that would be excessive.
言いたいのは、休みず集落は隅々にわたり監視されているということです。
What I'm saying is that all of Yasumisu is being observed.
バカな長者はそんなに暇ではない
It can't be. The village heads are too busy for that.
でも一方で、神内様の信仰を盤石にするために信じられないほどの労力を費やしてきたのも長者でしょう。
But they're the same people who'd spent unbelievable amounts of effort to create the foundation for the Shinai faith.
わかりますよ、あなたの気持ちは。僕もそんなバカなことがあるかと考えました。
I understand how you feel. You find it absurdly hard to believe.
そのバカなと疑う気持ちがトリックを隠蔽する最大の仕掛けです。
But the incredulity you're feeling right now is exactly how magic tricks are kept secret.
マジシャンが芸を披露するとき、その種は往々にしてそんなバカな手に引っかかるはずないというようなものか。
When you look at what magicians do, you find out that they're either things that were too silly for someone to fall for. Shout out when I was a kid, me really wanting to be a magician so bad. Shout out to that moment. Shout out to young me.
あるいはそんな大仕掛けをまさか用意しているわけがないという心理の穴に隠されているものですよ。
Or extremely complex setups that made you believe that they just couldn't have prepared them.
観客全部が桜だとかね。ちなみに僕はこれも最初は疑いましたよ。休みず全員が決死のドッキリ要員だとか。
The one where the audience turns into cherry blossoms is a good example. I'd actually been suspecting that all of Yasumisu were the targets of a really bad prank ever since I'd come here.
待ちたまえそれでは不可解に傷つけられた死体については
Wait, then how do you explain the severely damaged corpses?
死体を運搬して重機か何かで破壊すれば実現はできますよね。
They just carried them away and destroyed them with machinery or something.
おかしいだろう霧の休みずからは出られないと君が言ったことだ
That doesn't make sense. You yourself said that you can't leave Yasumisu once it's covered by mist.
地下の抜け穴でもあるんじゃないですか。
There must be secret underground passages or something.
待てじゃあ本気で犬をけしかけて殺した死体をわざわざ抜け穴を通って上藤吉まで持ち帰って
Wait. So they actually let loose some dogs, kill their targets, use the secret passages to bring the corpses back to Kami Fujiyoshi.
それを手間暇かけて損壊して休みずまで持ち帰っているとそんな馬鹿げたことを
Then waste time to damage them and bring them back to Yasumisu? That's absurd, too absurd.
馬鹿げているからみんな信じる。
And that's exactly why everyone believes them.
じゃあ狼が触れると家の鍵が勝手に開いたというのは
Then what about the doors that open when you touch them?
遠隔操作の電子錠でしょうね。
Must be electronic remote controlled locks.
あの貧相な失礼しかし実際粗末な作りの休みずの住居もかね
In those shabby, apologies, simple looking dwellings in Yasumisu?
ボロい木板でも電子錠は仕込めます。そうすれば実際見事なカムフラージュになるでしょうね。
Even the worst buildings can have electronic locks. It'd make for a good camouflage even.
じゃあ
Then
血で記されるという過去の印は一体何だというのだね
how do you explain the guardian marks drawn in blood?
過去による託戦が血文字で伝えられるなどというのもありえないだろう。人間がやったら気づくはずだ。
The results of Snake's investigations are also delivered in blood text, right? You definitely know if it was a human.
麻酔ガスなら一発です。
Anesthetic gas gets the job done easily.
あなたならご存知のはずだ。
Checkmate,
亜酸化
atheist.
窒素とオクトゲンチラインの混合ガスは理想的な全身麻酔を実現する。
Surely you know that a mix of nitrous oxide and a type of octogen creates the perfect anesthetic.
周期もほとんどない。これはある意味危険なので、普通はあえて匂いをつけるそうですが、今回はそれもプラスに働く。
Oh.
It also has no smell. It's dangerous because of this, so people often add something with a scent to it, but in this case, that's a benefit.
バカを言うな。確かに君は少しばかり医療知識があるようだが、麻酔は専門医がいるほど難しい技術だ。
Don't be stupid. Well, I'll admit you know a bit of medicine, but anesthesia is so difficult that there's even specialists.
いるんでしょう。ノサト家以外の専門医が。
Well, there are specialists here besides the Nosato, right?
いたとしても、その上で各住居にさらなる改造を無断で施し、必要な密閉空間を作ったとしても、
Even if there are, and even if they modified the dwellings here enough to create isolated spaces.
生命維持設備もない場所で本人の同意なく混沌させるような乱暴な施術で確実な蘇生が実現できるとは。
There's no guarantee that anyone could safely come back from forced loss of consciousness in a place without any life support. Oh,
そうです。確実に蘇生しなくてもいい。
exactly. They don't have to come back.
運悪く死亡させても構わない。死体を損壊して家の外に放り出しておけば物意味違反者と見分けはつかない。
Even if someone ended up dying, they could just destroy the evidence, toss the body outside, and make them look like rule breakers who didn't shelter.
バカなバカな、そんなバカみたいな卑劣な。
No. No. That is so absurd and vile.
わかりますよ。僕だってこんなオチを明かされたら納得できない。
I know. I have a hard time accepting this too.
でもそれが可能である以上、これは神業でも何でもない。
But if it's possible, then it's not the work of a god.
トリックで実現できる不思議な事象は全てトリックによって発生してるんですよ、野里さん。
If something mysterious can be explained using mundane means, then it was caused by mundane means, Nosato-san.
ああ、わかった。実現可能だということ、君がそう信じていることを十分に。
Okay, I understand that it's possible to make that happen, while you believe that it's how it is.
そして君がさっき謝罪をした意味も、
And why you apologized.
この部屋が放置されているということは、身車の連中はここに気づかなかったか入れなかったということだ。
The fact that this room was left as is means that they either didn't find it or couldn't enter it.
しかしこうして大っぴらに探索をし大声で議論をしたからには、
But now that we've made such a show of searching and argued so loudly,
先方は気づくはずだ。君の言う通りカメラやら盗聴器やらが仕込んであるなら、
they must have noticed us. Assuming they, as you said, have cameras and listening devices.
そして
Oh,
そのことに気づいたとすれば、彼らにとって我々は生かしておくことはできない。
and if they noticed us, they cannot let us live.
宴の開始を待たず殺す必要が。
They must kill us before the feast starts.
これは
This is...
そ
Yes.
うですね。
My consciousness began to fade. The irresistible drowsiness took over my body.
君の勝ちだな。
You win.
ほらね
See?
だがもっとうまい方法はなかったのか。
But didn't you have a better way to go about this?
すみません
I'm sorry. Unable to stand, I fell to my knees. I hit my forehead on the desk, but the pain was minimal. It didn't kill me, huh?
どうせあるだろう親父。
I know. You have one, old man.
これ
There. This is it. He could still move. Crawling on his hands and knees, he opened a drawer and took out a small glass bottle.
君が死ねば全ては戻るのだよな。
If you die, it'll all be undone, won't it?
ならばこれをトリカブト
Then take this, Asinite.
捕まって拷問でもされたら厄介だろう。
He'd trouble you if they caught and interrogated you. I appreciated that. I reached out, took it, and put it in my mouth. My mouth.
私も
Yay, death pact. I'll have some too.
たとえなかったことになるのだとしても
Even if this will all be erased.
先祖の積み重ねてきたものを無駄にする罪は
Wasting all that my forefathers gathered would be a sin. Ugh, ugh. Just one last sentence.
無駄にはしない絶対
I won't waste it. I promise. I just had to say that much. I now got a duty to fulfill for this awkward man. That's a funny sentence to me. I now had a duty to fulfill for this awkward man. With every loop, I gained not only memories, but one-sided responsibilities as well. That meant that I really had to save everyone, right? For the awkward man, death came quick. Nut Talk. Nut Talk 1. We got the Nut Talk 1 trophy. Key 8, Will of the Crow. Great. Let's take just a quick look at that. As I thought, Kinosuke was a reasonable man. Apparently awkward, though. With his help, I was able to learn the head's perception of the feast of the Yomi Purge, as well as the long historical background behind it. Through death, I learned the Miguruma are using a cutting-edge surveillance network and are intervening with Yasumitsu. This will be a huge clue to resolving the incident. It is interesting. This was, I was given a lot of shit for just how much, like, background lore dump that seemed unnecessary was really getting shoved right there. But I will say the final bit here, maybe because my head is cleared or whatever, but, like, this final bit we read in the past hour here tonight was, at least, once it's all tied up and it's like, okay, what was the purpose of reading all this? Okay, I understand. It's basically coming to the conclusion. Again, not to just dismiss so much of the writing, but the TLDR of it being like, all right, this whole feast thing probably can be explained for reasons, and it maybe isn't as supernatural as it seems, kind of thing. Perhaps. Perchance. Bad ending 11. What key number did we just get? Because I know I'm gonna have to go back into the timeline now, and okay, 8. So we gotta go find, like, watch hint corner. No. What do I look like A baby that likes hints. Yes, I do. One sheep. Two sheep. I mean, there can't be that many locks left. I'm gonna be honest. We have almost all the keys. Let's scroll around. Scrolling around at the speed of sound. Oh, we don't have a 19 for this, so hide in outhouse, which is very early on. I can't wait to go back to this. Remember, he was like, I'm in an outhouse where people take a shit or something, and then oh god, the mist, the wolves. It was so early, I might be wrong recalling that, but don't worry, I'm probably close to right. Okay, none of that. This is what we just got. Wow, look how... See, this was all just... all of this diary thing. My goodness. My goodness. Okay, I don't think it's anything over here. Yup. Okay. I have the song I played for the intro to the stream massively stuck in my head. It's kind of distracting as I was reading that whole thing, I'm not gonna lie. It's funny because I've heard I was on a big silica gel kick a month or two ago, and so I was listening to a lot of discography of silica gel, and the song that I played, No Pain, I wasn't initially feeling it, and then I listened to it again a couple more times in the last couple of days. I was like, actually, yeah. Where the fuck is this thing? It's not gonna be on the last bit, is it? It's probably on the last bit. Is it the last bit? Where am I going? Watch this be the actual first time I can't find anything. I think I kept going. Uh-oh. There's no way in hell I'm actually lost, is it? Oh shit, he should have watched Hint Corner. Is it here? No, I don't have key 1. No pain, no gain. Ba 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 ba. No ha, no way. Ba da ba ba. I can't sing like him. Also, the whatever his name is, the lead singer of Silica Gel, does like that voice modulation like thing in a lot of the songs. And so if you try to like sing it, it's not gonna come across as like obviously the same thing. Where the fuck am I? Oh boy. Is it? No, I need 19. Oh. Where are we? Where do we go? All right, I'm gonna find it. Fuck it. Damn. There was that person in chat a stream or two ago that was like, oh, here's where you gotta go. Here's where you go next. And I was like, please don't tell me what to do. Don't just, and then I was like, it seems pretty clear and obvious. So I kind of shooed that away. And then here I am. Fast forward to today. Am I bad? Could they make this chart a little nicer to navigate? Just for my fucking sake. I'm gonna explode. I'm just scrolling through a fucking timeline. Everyone's just yelling at their monitor right now at me. I'm going through the same things I just went through. Oh no. I'll look it up if I must, but I feel as if I just missed some very easy thing. I mean, it's clear where I just need the key 19. Based on what's left, So it would just be me searching. Is it? Let me see something. Is it here? Is it key 3 here? Select trap? Did I not select? It might be here because I can't. Can I not easily see where this goes? I think, okay, to give myself a little bit of credit, it might be that. And because it doesn't look, I think what's happening is when I try to scroll to the right here. No, where is it? It's the thing that has the 20 and the 3. I think when I'm trying to scroll to the right, since it's not available. Up, 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 up. I think this 20 and 3, because what are keys 20 and 3? Those have got to be some of the ones we just gotten recently. Yeah, the Chiemi key. Ah, shit. Okay, so it was hard to find because, and then the ending loop key. Okay, yeah, I'm confident. That's what's going on. It's not me who's the problem. It's this fucking mobile ass looking chart thing. Mobile game ass looking, that's what I meant to say.
皆さんから見れば僕なんじゃないですか。こんな時に外から来て素性も知れなくて。
From everyone's perspective, it's me. Came at such a suspicious time. Y'all know nothing about me.
てめえがうさんくさいのと狼かどうかは関係ねえ。
I'm just reading this for a little bit of context, hopefully. You're shady, but it's not got nothing to do with being a wolf. Consider a response from him? Something wasn't right here. What was I to do here? Got it. Here we go. Okay, I remember. So we were hit with Konzo. This is during the whole Haru partner loop. So the official third loop where we were getting close with Haru. And then originally we talked about Haru's love life because then that sowed seeds of distrust between Konzo and that boy whose name escapes me because I feel like we haven't seen him in like ages on the stream. We've been dodging him by getting all these keys and shit. So, yeah. Okay, so we're going to just ask Konzo about Haru. I guess not about her love life. That was right. I just remembered. Did my memories carry over in a weird way because the method from back then was weird? Well, then again, this wouldn't be the first time my memories didn't carry over properly. Maybe I should have counted myself lucky for remembering it all. I had tons of things to think about. About the beast in the village. This picture again. I don't know what's about it. I think I really am trying to pinpoint why I find this image very funny throughout this whole series. I don't know if it's just because we saw it very early and then we saw it always is the stand-in for like, oh, wolf in the village picture. Or is it this wolf figure is kind of like posed up, like stanced up in a very funny manner to me. He's like, oh, like we caught him off guard and he's like, oh shit, you've seen me. Is it the one lamp? Is it the light that makes it funny to me for some reason? I don't know what it is. Is it the angle of the stairs? There's something secret about this. I don't know what it is. That makes me just laugh every time something aesthetically laughable. The giant monster. The dream enveloping Fujiyoshi, as well as the looping the sheep had told me about. The fucking cartoon sheep. But this wasn't the time to worry about that. The old man before me was one who'd survived the past tragedies in Fujiyoshi. With the old wolf guy being a pain to talk to, I had to rely on him instead. But how was I supposed to talk to him? Looked like there was just one way.
僕ですよ。
It's me.
狼は僕です。
I'm a wolf. Upon hearing that,
てめえが狼だと。
you're a wolf? He didn't take out his gun. His expression showed nothing but total confusion.
わかりますよ。 あなたの経験では狼は絶対に自首しない。
I know. From your experience, wolves never reveal themselves.
もちろん人は嘘をつかない。とりわけ自滅的な嘘は。だからあなたは僕の真意が読めないんだ。
Of course, the humans don't lie, so you can't even imagine why anyone would say something so suicidal. There's two says there.
黙れ。
Shut it! He finally pointed his gun at me, but his lateness told me just how hesitant he was. I controlled the pace of the conversation.
僕がこれを明かしたのは僕がこの村の外で育ったものだからですよ。
I revealed this because I'm someone who grew up outside the village.
僕は神様の呪縛にはかかっていませんから。
I'm not bound by God's curse. Not yet, anyway.
ん
通じないか。まあいいです。とにかくあなたがこれまで見てきたのはよそ者のいない閉鎖的な宴でしょ。
You don't understand. Okay, well, just keep in mind that the feasts from before were isolated and didn't have any outsiders.
あなたの経験はよそ者が混じった宴には通用しない。まああまり警戒しないでください。僕に敵意はありません。
Your experience doesn't apply to a feast with outsiders. Don't be so concerned, though. I mean no harm. I sat down on the ground, extending my hurting leg forward.
撃っても構いませんよ。
Shoot me if you want.
ただ過半数の合意を得ずに殺しをすればたとえ1日1冊の制限内でも違反になる。ご存知とは思いますが。
Though, I'm sure you're aware that a murder without the majority's approval is against the rules, even if it doesn't break the one per day law. I confirmed that during my looping with Chiemi.
脳がきはいい。てめえのよう言え。
Get to the point.
よーって言うんじゃないですよ。僕はあなたに同情してるんです。
There's no point. I just feel bad for you.
あ
Huh? I had to apologize to the Kaori-san and Haru-chan of this timeline.
おじいさんと孫で殺し合わなきゃならないなんてひどい話です。
It must be awful for a grandfather to have to kill his granddaughter.
僕はそんな局面で自分だけが生き残りたいなんて思え
Are
な
we
いんです
trying to
よ。
mindfuck with this guy a bit?
ただ気が重いだけだ。
Are we trying to like not mindfuck might not be the right term, but like trying to in a way like pacify him with a bold strategy. I wouldn't want to be the only survivor of such an awful situation. It's too heavy a burden.
だからあなたに直接聞きに来たんです。
That's why I came here to talk to you.
てめえ。今なんつった。
What'd you just say?
おじいさんと孫で殺し合わなきゃならない。
It must be awful for a grandfather to have to kill his granddaughter. He didn't fire, but he sent a solid kick flying at my solar plexus, knocking the wind from my lungs.
てめえは狼だから嘘を言っとる。
You're a wolf? You gotta be lying.
もしそうなら僕はそもそも正体を明かさない。
If that's the case, I wouldn't have revealed myself at all.
まあわかりますが。
You think I want to be kicked by you, an old
僕は
man?
確かに狼ですし
Barrel-chested man?
話してることは全て真実ですよ。
Well, I understand though. I'm a wolf and all I'm saying is true.
ならばなぜ言った。
Then why'd you say it?
こう言えば納得しますか。
Will you get it if I say this?
孫を殺したくないなら他の人を皆殺しにしてください。
If you don't want to kill your granddaughter, kill everyone else. Another kick. It came from my face and hit my head, making me see stars. Protect your head, man! Why? Dude, he's winding up for kicks. Isn't there, like, you should be able to, like, properly defend yourself or dodge. It's not like he's sucker punching you.
狼はくくる。
Unless he's into it, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he wants to get hit by this guy. I'm not judging. I'll hang all the wolves, even my granddaughter.
ええ、あなたはそう言うでしょう。僕は構いません。そっちが選ばれても。
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. I don't mind if you choose that.
しかしそれは本気ですか？
But, are you really sure?
僕は命を懸けてここにいます。ただ一つ、あなたと腹を割って話したいから。
I'm putting my life on the line here, and it's only because I want to open up to you.
だから、あなたも腹を割って話していただけませんか？
So could you please respond in kind?
僕はただ、納得して死にたいだけだ。そのために、あなたに聞きたい。
I just want to understand before I die. That's why I want to ask you something.
これまでに参加してきた宴の経験則、あなたの人生観を支えてきた鉄の掟を取るのか、それとも孫を取るのか。
Specifically, about your experience in the previous feasts, and whether you'll sacrifice the laws that have supported you, or your granddaughter.
教えてください、牧島勘三さん。
Please tell me, Kanzo Makishima-san.
てめえは信用できねえ。
Oh, I get what he was kind of saying earlier then. He was like, well, I'm not going to go to the old man who cries wolf to try to learn about the previous feast, because that's going to get us fucking nowhere. I'm all piecing this together. So this is another piece of the puzzle where he's like, hey, the most logical person to try to talk to try to figure just how what previous feasts kind of happened and get some more clues and details about that, it does make sense to go to Kanzo. I think back to like what all the other people that might have been in the feasts, and it was like Tai. Like, I'm not talking to her either. I can't trust you. Of course he couldn't. But he couldn't ignore or kill me either.
座られたらどうですか？どうせ僕は今一人では動けません。時間はまだあるでしょう。
Why not sit down? I can't move right now and we still have time. He silently sat down right before me, cross-legged. Tell me a tale, sir. The conversation was slow and sporadic. He asked if I and Haru-chan really were wolves over and over again. Well, what he was mostly conflicted about was whether or not to harm his granddaughter after all. Thus, I said this.
少し安心しました。
I'm relieved.
なんじゃ。
What?
あなたがちゃんと悩んでいる。
You're actually conflicted about this.
狼になった途端、殺人をためらわなくなったハルちゃんと違って。
Haru-chan didn't hesitate to murder the moment she became a wolf.
春がそうなっとるか。
Really?
ええ。香織さんもね。反対した僕は逆に殺されそうになりました。
Yes. Kaori-san too. I was against it and I almost died because of it.
狼になればどんなものでも
Anyone
心まで狼になる。
who becomes a wolf ends up of a wolf to the core.
春まで
Oh.
なぜ
Even Haru? Why?
あなたはこれまでの宴ではずっと人側だったんですね。
You were human in the other feasts, right?
前のことを教えてくれませんか？
Can you tell me about them? Or tell me more about them? Thus, he started talking. Thusly. Here we go. He'd participated in 2 feasts in the past. This was his 3rd. Oh, he survived 2 feasts. That's quite baller of him. But as far as he knew, there was another feast before that. It happened about 60 years ago, shortly after he was born. The mists came and many died. It coincided with World War II. Youths from both Kami Fujiyoshi and Yasumitsu were drafted to the battlefield, so most of the ones who died in the feast were the elderly, women, and children. After that, Yasumitsu, which once had dozens of people, quickly deteriorated. Deaths weren't the only cause, some just fled.
その時のことはよくわからん。ただ後々年寄りどもは口々にあんなはずはなかったと言うておった。
I don't know much about that time, but the elders said that it wasn't supposed to happen.
どういう意味でしょうか？
What do you mean?
知らん。狼が本当に出るとは誰も思うておらんかったと。
No idea. They just said that the wolf should have never actually appeared. His explanation was so full of holes that I didn't really understand. However, it seemed like, until the event during the war, the Feast of the Yomi Purge wasn't considered a paranormal event. Most couldn't believe that the Okami had actually appeared. It shocked everyone. They began to think that they'd angered the mountain. Some of the elderly believed that the Fujiyoshi blood spilled in the war had awakened the wolves. It happened just 60 years ago, but it greatly spread the darkness of the local superstition. Apparently, something that appeared in Yasumizu at that time helped too. Or, did I add a wrong word there? Apparently something that had happened in Yasumizu at the time. I said appeared. I'm just making up words. Kanza-san said that people were killed, and I couldn't tell whether Kanza-san didn't know the details or if he found it so detestable he didn't want to say it. Whatever the case, the main topic of conversation happened a while after that. It was the other two feasts, the ones he'd participated in. He said that there were no mists for a whole 40 years after the feast in the war. The war ended during this time, and though some tried to fix it, Yasumizu was in an awful state. People died, the workforce was lost, poverty became worse, some still living went to work away from home, causing the place to deteriorate even further. However, Kanza-san felt that the main cause of this awful state was the darkness of superstition clouding the locals' hearts. Kanza-san could remember how, when he was young, everyone just worked the fields with cloth over their faces, constantly afraid of something. Those cloths were an item used in the mountain, Shinai, festival. Their purpose was to prevent eye contact with Yomibito, though Kanza-san himself used it to keep the sun out of his eyes and to prevent his game from sensing his vision. Hardcore. But at the core, it was an unreasonable tool born of superstition. Anyway, as the village became more and more unreasonable, the mists came. It happened about 15 years ago. At that time, Tai-san and Chiemi, who was still in her first year of elementary school, were participating in an event in Kamifujiyoshi, so they ended up avoiding the incident. The two village heads who were in Yasumizu right now weren't here to begin with, while Takumi-san was already an adult working away from home. Haru-chan was born just a year before, and since her parents were on vacation, she'd also avoided the tragedy.
旅行ですか？小さい子を連れて休みずから？
They were on a trip away from Yasumizu? With a small child?
嫁は学校の先生じゃった。実家が隣町で里帰りよ。
My son's wife was a teacher from a nearby town. She went back to her parents.
なるほど。
My gruff guy
しか
voice.
しよく外のものを休みずに嫁入りさせ
Kills
る
my
決
throat.
心がつきましたね。ギリギリよそ者じゃないってとこですか？
I see. I'm impressed he decided to marry someone from out of Yasumizu. She was pretty much an outsider, huh?
もちろん、よう思わんものは多かった。
Some complained about
相
it.
場もぶつくさ言うたものよ。
Some complained about it, especially Taiba.
あなたは反対しなかったんですか？
You weren't against it?
逆よ。この時期向こうの里に行けるなら安心じゃろ。
The opposite. I'd rest easy knowing they could leave Yasumizu at this time of year.
逃げられたのはその時だけじゃったか。
It was the only time they'd ever escaped, though. Anyway, the only ones who'd experienced that feast and were still alive were Kanza-san and the old wolf guy.
今のと何も変わらん宴じゃった。
It was a feast like this one.
皆最初はくくりたがらん。狼は迷わず血祭りを始める。
No one wanted to hang anyone the first day. Then the wolves killed someone.
加護者が名乗れば偽物も立つ。疑い合ってしまいには票で決める。起きてから外れれば汚れじゃ。
You had a fake for every guardian receiver. No one trusted anyone and then voted. Go against the rules and get the corruption.
起きてに挑んだ者もおった。逃げて山ん中で死んだり、物意味をせんで死んだり。
Some tried, but died in the mountains or cause they didn't shelter.
この宴で樋口の跡取りも死んだ。織部の安や吉の親父よ。
This feast killed the Higuchi heir, Oribe's, Yasu's, and Yoshi's dad. I'd heard of that. He was killed by the wolves on the first day. He was either wise enough for the wolves to see him as a threat, or they just hated him. Both were likely, but I didn't care about that now.
どうして長者であった彼が安水へ？
Why would a village head come to Yasumizu?
奴は安水にまともな水場を作ると言うて一人で乗り込んできよった。
He came here by himself to make a proper watering hole.
井口の中の争いで面倒を任されたに決まっとるが。
The Gucci family fought over who'd get this dirty job.
狙ったような時期に。
And it coincided with the feast? Was it planned?
実際この時期に安水送りはよくある。てめえもそうじゃ、兄ちゃん。
Many get sent here at this time of year. You're one, too.
なるほど。いやしかし、よそ者をこの時期に呼ぶことは少なかったのでは？
I see, but wasn't it unusual to invite outsiders at this time of year?
そいつは確かだ。そもそも記者やらが安水に入ったのがねえことよ。
That's true. It's also the first time a journo came to Yasumizu. The fact that outsiders were invited at all was way more suspicious than the timing of it. Anyway, about 10 people died in the feast, and Yasumizu lost a third of its population. It was awful. Kanzo-san was just a human without any guardian. Half of the participants were old people who'd either experienced the last feast or were in the war. Naturally, they could make awfully cruel decisions, and some tried to go against the rules, leading to severe punishments at the hands of the corruption.
わしは何もできねえで。
I couldn't do anything.
ただ恐ろしいのを隠してむっつり黙っとった。
I just hid from the scary stuff and didn't say a thing.
その時の一番のじじいが言った。肝臓てめえ、よく見ときゅう。わしらが死ねばお前が宴を回すんじゃ。そう言った。
The eldest there told me to watch and learn, because I'd been the one running Yasumizu if they died.
そいつも狼に血祭りにされよったがの。
He got brutalized by the wolves soon after.
狼は誰だったんですか？
Who were the wolves?
3匹のうち2匹は未だわからん。
We only found out one of the three.
じゃが最後にくくったのはトールのわしのせがれと同い年の娘よ。
But the last one we hanged was a girl about as old as Tor, my son.
今思い出してもゾッとする。
Remembering it still gives me the chills.
あの器量のええ娘が鬼みてえな面でわしらを呪いながら縄にかかって落ちる時のその面をよ。
She got the noose on her and fell. That well-behaved girl cursed us with the face of a demon. I knew that feeling well due to all my looping, but I couldn't really say it.
その後残ったもんで宴の始末して、もちろんあのじじいはフラフラしてやがったがな。
After that, we finished up the feast. The old fart's been like that back then too. The old wolf guy.
戻ってきたタイバーとせがれたちにゃ事故が起きた。じゃが心配するな。そう言って聞かせた。
When they came back, I told Taiba, my son, and everyone else that there had been an accident. There was nothing to worry about.
小せえ血はビビってしばらく塩ラッシュになったもんよ。わしを夜便所に呼んだりして。
Little Chi was scared, got all quiet for a while. She even asked me to go with her to the bathroom at night.
じきに匠が戻ってきて、織部の神さんが安連れて休みぞ送りにされてきた。
How come we
あらにはヨシがおった。
How come we came back right after? Noguchi's wife was sent here with Yasu. She had Yoshi in her.
それが初めの宴よ。
That was the first feast.
ちなみに宴が始まる前に安水で何か事件は起きませんでしたか？
If I may ask, did something happen in Yasumizu before the feast began?
なんじゃそれは。
What do you mean?
何でもいいです。長者が目に留めそうな大きな事件なら。
Anything big enough for the village heads to take notice?
その何年か前、ここら中で病が流行った。ありゃひどかった。何十人かは死によった。わしも死ぬ寸前よ。
A few years before that, there'd been an illness here. It was hell. Dozens died, and I was on the verge. I was on the verge too. I think that's supposed to just say on.
それは何の病気でしたか？
Come on, game, don't make me sound bad. What illness was that? Was it?
知らん。ひでえ腹下しの病だ。
Oh, we know what it is. I don't know. Gave everyone bad diarrhea though. I was shitting a bad one. Was that relevant?
じゃあその次の宴というのは
What about the next feast?
8年前、大雨の後、霧が出た。野里の工事現場が崩れて、何人だか埋まってから宴が始まった。
8 years ago, after a bad rain, the mist came again. Started after the landslide and the Nosato construction site buried some people. I already knew some things about that feast. During it, the children, Tai-san and Kaori-san, were in Kamifujiyoshi, and it killed Haru-chan's parents. Gen-san, one of the survivors, mentioned something about the badger, and Haru-chan somehow survived the mist. Kanzo-san added more information to that. Takumi-san had been working away from home again, and Kanzo-san was the crow. Kaka! He was absolutely certain that his son, Toru Makishimashi, was a wolf.
せがれは
My son.
せがれもカラスだと名乗りやがった。
My son said he was the crow.
嫁が富子が泣きおる前で、わしとせがれは罵り合い、てめえが狼だとわめき合った。
Tomiko, his wife, cried as my son and I shouted at each other, saying that the other is a wolf.
それで姉妹にはあいつと並んで投票させられた。
In the
最
end,
後くくられたのはあいつじゃった。
in the end, there was a vote. He's the one who ended up hanging.
最後まであいつは言い続けた。
He kept saying it until the end.
自分が本物のカラスじゃと。それで親父が狼じゃとまっすぐな目で。
He said he was the real crow and that I was a wolf. There wasn't a bit of lies in his eyes.
わしは自分がカラスでなければ信じたろう。
If I wasn't the crow, I would have believed him.
その時もただジジイとババアがあいつに入れただけでわしもくくられる瀬戸際よ。
Back then, only the elders voted for him, and it was really close. I almost got hanged.
それで
And
その晩に一人血祭りになって、
someone got brutalized that night.
あとはわしを狼じゃと思って殺そうとしたか、物意味を破った嫁の富子が汚れを受けて。
And Tomiko, thinking that I was a wolf, tried to kill me at night and got the corruption because she didn't shelter.
朝霧が晴れた。
The next morning, the mist cleared.
なんですって？血祭りの後に何もしていないのに霧が晴れた？
What? It cleared though you didn't do anything after the brutalization? Haru-chan's parents' final moments sparked some emotions for me, but I had to comment on that.
本当に血祭りでしたか？狼が何か間違えて汚れを受けただけじゃ。
Was it really a brutalization? Are you sure the wolves didn't mess up and suffer the corruption?
いいや、斧の一発、綺麗なもんよ。
No, it was a clean axe kill.
その時までに確実に葬っていた狼は何人いました？
How many wolves did you kill until then?
狼3匹のうち、せがれだけよ。カラスのわしには分かった。
Out of the 3 wolves, only my son. I was the crow, so I knew. The mist cleared with 2 wolves still alive? That was supposed to be impossible. The feast rules didn't allow that. Wolves could only die during the day, and since one of them killed someone during the night, the wolves had to be alive. Yet the mist cleared despite that? That was supposed to be impossible. Or maybe it was unnatural to assume that the mist, a natural phenomenon, was directly linked with the feast, a man-made one. It's like it's all phooey almost. Huh. If the mist was actually somehow controlled by humans, then maybe it wasn't unlikely for it to be cleared due to some mistake. It would make sense if that happened this time. It would also explain the Gensan thing. If he'd been a wolf and accidentally survived, it would solve the contradiction of Kanto-san, a human, still being alive, while a wolf was able to leave that crucial bit of info. If there was a way to control the mist, it probably wasn't linked to the control of the loop. Still, maybe it'd be useful. I'd keep this in mind.
はるちゃんのことは
What about Haru-chan?
わしは聞いただけじゃ。
I only know what I heard.
春はせがれがくくられた晩に休みずに入ったかもしれん。が、誰も王者おらん。
She might have entered Yasumisu the evening my son was hanged, but no one saw her.
え、その次の日霧が晴れたんですよね。
Huh? The mist cleared after that, right? Had the mist cleared because of God?
とにかく
Did
それで宴が
God
終
do
わっ
it?
て
So, the mist ended there.
匠も呼び戻して、また始末よ。
And I called Takumi to help clean up.
それではるちゃんがおかしくなって
Then, Haru-chan became weird.
わしはただ事故じゃと言った。
I told her it was an accident.
お前の父ちゃんと母ちゃんは霧に巻かれて崖から落ちて死んだと。
That her parents got lost in the mist and fell off the cliff.
言えるわけがねえ。
I couldn't say it.
父ちゃんが狼になって母ちゃんが駒切れになったなんぞ言えるわけがねえ。違うか。
I couldn't tell her that her dad was a wolf, or that her mom got torn apart, right? Kanzo-san was unusually talkative. The strange wolf before him made the rough, silent old man reveal things he'd wanted to take to his grave.
あなたはただし
You were right to do so.
それでも春にとっちゃ親が亡くなったことは変わらん。
Still, the girl lost her parents.
春はおかしゅうなった。
So, she got weird.
狼つきですか。
A wolf possession, right?
それもよ。じゃが素直なええ子じゃったのが拗ねたわがままな子になってしもうた。
That's one thing. She'd also been a good, cheerful girl, and it made her all edgy and selfish.
あんな格好をしてあの時に持っとった水筒を未だに下げておる。
She started wearing those clothes, still carried around that bottle she'd had with her at the time.
それはどうかな。
I'm not sure about that. Hmm?
狼つきの件はともかく彼女の態度や趣味が変わったように感じられるのはあなたの気のせいかもしれません。
I don't know about the possession, but I feel like the changes in her behavior and tastes are just in your imagination.
あるいはあなたがはるちゃんに対して壁を作っていたから彼女も同じようにしただけかもしれない。
Maybe it's only happening because you built a wall between you and her, and she just did the same.
てめえに何がわかる。
Don't act like you know.
わかります。同じ狼ですよ。
I do. We're both wolves.
あなたが知れない彼女の内面を僕は垣間見ました。
I saw glimpses of her true personality.
彼女はびっくりするくらい素直です。いや、貪欲と言ってもいい。
You'd be surprised how honest she is. I'd almost call it greedy.
言われたこと、与えられたものをどんどん取り込んで、したたかに成長する。才覚と呼べるほど素直でいい子だ。
She's a good, honest girl who takes in whatever she hears and matures like the teen she is. I'd call her talented just for that.
嫌味なしに、いい子、いい人間です。こんなことがなければ交際を申し込みたいほど魅力のある少女です。
I can honestly call her a good girl. A good person. If it weren't for the situation, I'd ask to be in a relation. Whoa, wait! Haruaki, come on! Focus! I'd ask to be in a relationship with her. She's that charming. Don't mind the ages. Why would...
事件の後
Ah,
彼女に真
Come
相
on,
を受け
man.
取られることを恐れて距離を取って
Haruaki, come on.
何も与えることを
I'm
し
sorry,
な
I'm
く
sorry I
なっ
always
た
gotta
のは
bring it up, but it is just weird to me. I mean, it's fucking whatever, but like... Then there's you. You were afraid that she might find out the truth, so you distance yourself from her and refuse to give her anything.
あなたじゃないんですか、肝臓さん。
I mean, I don't mean to be like, oh, I'm so morally right about this kind of thing. Ooh. But like, even like, just thinking logistically, like, I'm gonna say something that sounds really obvious, and like, I'm trying to get points or something, like fake points out of this. But like, how old is Haruaki? He's at least like early 20s or something. 20 to mid 20s, something around that. I forget, at some point it probably said his real age, but like never in my wildest dreams would I then be like, feel the need to go to say, as I'm having this conversation with the grandfather or whatever, be like, oh man, Haru, she's such a good person, you know, she's however old she is. You know, I would be so lucky. That's just... Come on, man. Come on, Haruaki. He didn't even have to add that. He didn't have to say that. You know what I mean? He didn't. He didn't have to say it, but he did anyway. I'm sorry. I'm harping on it all the time. Because it continues to weird me out just slightly. Right, Kanzo-san? He didn't get mad at me. He just cast his eyes down. This wasn't the energetic, strong hunter I knew, but an old man caught in the throes of regret. What a shame. It was so sad that this would become nothing but a dream. This exchange, that could perhaps remove the wall between the old man and his granddaughter, would be gone. Oh well, I'd have to solve it all anyway. I'd try to fix their family relations, too. It wasn't necessary for Haru-chan and I to be wolves for my words to resonate with him.
狼3匹のうちせがれだけよ。カラスのわしには分かった。
Out of the 3 wolves, only my son. I was the crow, so I knew.
あんな格好をしてあの時に持っとった水筒を未だに下げておる。
She started wearing those clothes, still carried around that bottle she'd had with her at the time. I also solved a few more mysteries. This was a good time to end it.
さて、肝臓さん、そろそろ戻らなきゃ。
Kill me now.
みんなが心配します。
Now, Kanzo-san, you need to go back. Everyone's worried.
肩貸せ。連れて行く。
Give me your shoulder. I'll take you.
何を寝ぼけてるんですか？
What are you saying?
ん？
Hmm?
あなたには狼を殺すか、人を裏切って人を皆殺しにするか、その2択しかないんだ。
Your only choices are killing the wolves or betraying the humans and killing them.
だったら、今僕を殺すか、僕をここに置いて、皆を殺しに行くか。
That's why you can only kill me, or leave me here and kill everyone else.
そのどちらかでいいはずでしょう。
Right?
あなたが、ハルちゃんを大事に思っていることは、十分わかりました。かといって、他の人だって大事でしょう。
I know full well that Haru-chan is important to you, but so are the others, right?
僕と香織さんと、ハルちゃんを殺せば、最低限の犠牲で勝利できる。投票にしろ殺人にしろ、あなたならそれができる。
If you kill Kaori-san, Haru-chan and I, you'll win this with minimal casualties. By vote or by bullet, I'm sure you can do that.
織部兄弟や匠さんや、ご老人たちや長者たち。彼らにも罪はないんです。
The Uribe brothers, Takumi-san, the elders, and the village heads are blameless here.
あなたは、それを決められる立場にある。宴でやらなきゃとか、眠いことを言わないでください。
That's why you have to decide right now. Don't act like you care about whether the feast happens today.
まあ、宴で同意を経て殺さないと、汚れを受けるんですけどね。
Well, I know that you'll suffer the corruption if you don't get the others to agree.
ただ、あなたはきっと、 汚れ覚悟で人か狼かを皆殺しにかかることを選ぶでしょう。
But I'm sure that it'll choose to massacre either the humans or the wolves, even if it means getting the corruption.
ハルちゃんのために死ぬなら命はなくなるし、ハルちゃんを殺して自分が生き残る選択はあなたはしないはずだ。
Dying for Haru-chan is an option, and so is killing Haru-chan, but surviving yourself, and I know you won't pick either option.
わしにはわからん。
I don't get it.
てめえ、一体何を考えてる？
What are you after? Would the sheep get mad at me if I said I just wanted to die quickly and naturally and move on to the next time? That was the absolute truth. But the thing I really wanted to say now was...
牧島勘三さん、僕はね、
Kanzo Makishima-san,
あなたが善人でないと困るんです。
I need you to be a good person.
正しいと思う選択をしてください。
Please do what you believe is right. With that done, I closed my eyes. And if you close your eyes... After a long period of hesitation, I heard a metallic sound come from his rifle. His breathing was already steady. He'd made his decision. It'd be bad for me if I just died here and there was no loop. However, I did find it sad that this man's resolve would become nothing but a dream. Bang! Grandpas are weak trophy! Oh, grandpas. Holy grandpas. Key 19. Hunter's Confession. By revealing my true self to Kanzo-san, I managed to have a heart-to-heart with him. As a survivor of 2 previous feasts, the most important thing he told me was, though the feast wasn't over, the mist cleared. This implies 2 things. First, the clearing of the mist can't always be perfectly controlled, and second, that there was definitely a wolf who survived a feast in Yasumisu. Also, I may have grasped some hints to the reason Haru-chan entered Yasumisu 8 years ago and returned alive. What? Let me rescan this again. Though the feast wasn't over, the mist cleared. This implies 2 things. First, clearing the mist can't always be perfectly controlled. Okay. Yeah. Second, there was definitely a wolf who survived a feast. Okay. Sure. Sure. Does that mean I have all the keys except for number 1? Huge. Massive. Massive, dude. Bang. Bad ending 22. Watch hint corner? No. No. Yes, it was just a dream, right? Do better next time. 1 sheep. 2 sheep. Alright, I'm gonna do a quick little BRB. I'm gonna stretch a little bit. I'm gonna go get some water so that we can continue reading. Probably continue reading for like another hour. Let me find where we are in the chart now, though. Is it back here now? Why do I kind of remember... It's this one, right? Hide in outhouse. Hide in the outhouse. Okay, I think this is where we go. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah? 3, 8, 19, and 20. Probably get key number 1. Okay, I'll be back very shortly. Give me a handful of minutes. Give me 4 minutes max. I'll be right back. Get a BRB going. Where's anything? Okay, cool. I'll be right back. All right. Was that 4 minutes? Did I say 4 minutes or 3 minutes? I don't know how long that was. And I don't even remember how many minutes I said I'd get. All right, who's ready to get the final key? Let's go. Hiding in the outhouse, question mark? Man, this is really early into the game, yeah? I mean, this is first loop. I guess the first feast thing happening? And then where we were shoved in we weren't even able to participate in the feast. I'm curious what's gonna happen here. Right? Do I have this in the right? We ran up the hill and crossed the rice field path until we made it to a simple outhouse. This is like, Chiemi was like, you gotta the feast is happening, the mist. Fucking quickly, hide in those shitter. And he's like, oh, okay. This should be fine.
本当何事なんだ確かにすごい霧だけどそんな慌てることじゃ
Seriously, what's going on? And sure, that was a hell of a mist, but this one won't protect me, right?
いい、春明さん。詳しく説明してる時間はない。だから、お願いだから、今から言うことを絶対に守って。
Listen, there's no time to explain, so please just do what I say and only that.
今から一晩、ここに入って、鍵をかけて、絶対に物音一つ立てないで。
Get in there, lock yourself in, stay inside the whole night, and don't make a sound. My mind was pretty clear by this point, so much so that I began to wonder why it was clouded until now. Because of that, I could easily understand exactly what Chiemu just said, despite how weird it was. I could also see she was really desperate. Look for him? Oh. I'm gonna look for him. At that moment, my head was flooded with information. Don don, don don, don don, don don. Felt like my mind was crushed by a million sheep. Don don. Crap. Again? With this timing, at such a chaotic moment? I had lots of things to think about, but that'd be a waste of this loop. Well, I would start by calming down.
ちえみちゃんちえみちゃん
Chiemi-chan! Chiemi-chan!
何？
What?
まだ思い出せないか
You still don't remember?
はじめましてちえみちゃん
Nice to meet you, Chiemi-chan.
そっか。そうだった。
Their little cute introductions to each other once they realized that they were both looping and stuff. Oh yeah, right. I'm late, but nice to meet you, Haruaki-san.
絶対に物音一つ立てないで
Don't make a sound.
やめろ。本気だったんだから。
Stop, I was being serious. Since we started sharing memories, every loop, one of us, mostly Chiemi, always forgot something, leaving it to the other to remember.
今回なんか試すの？夜は私なんだかんだ苦手なんだけど。
What are you gonna try next? I'm not great at night, as you know.
ああうん無理しないでいいよ僕はちょっと思いついたことがあるから
Yeah, don't force yourself. I have an idea.
戻ってこれる？
Will you come back?
多分無理かな君はどうする
Probably not. What are you gonna do?
さっさと自殺しよっかな。
I'm thinking of killing myself right here and now. So real? Chiemi, you're so real for that.
なんかそういうの全部解決した後に癖になってそうで嫌だな
Man, it's not a good habit to pick up. What if we have it by the time everything's solved?
そうだね。良くない傾向だ。とりあえず試せること試すよ。
Yeah, it's not a good trend. I'll try whatever I can.
悪いね何試す
Sorry, what'll you try?
ヤス君にモーションかけてみるとか。
Making a move on Yasukun, maybe? He hits her with just the stairs. Stare.
ああなるほどご自由に
Oh, go right ahead.
怒った？
Are you mad?
いや怒るのはおかしい
No, it'd be weird if I was.
だよね。
Yeah?
もちろん
Of course.
嘘だよ。そんなのしない。
That was a joke. I wouldn't do that.
そう
I see.
じゃあまた。
See you later. Had I been attacked just now? It was no big deal. I could easily control my feelings toward other people. Man, why was I so mad? I need to get a hold of myself. I was now by myself. What was there for me to do? I just remembered. I tried to solve that problem, though it probably wouldn't be a solution. But if I didn't try, I felt like there'd be a trap waiting for me when I least expected it. And so, I went to the north of Yasumizu. This thicket near the graveyard was where that person supposedly lived. Naturally, it was empty. Then again, not much time had passed since the mist came. I hid in a bush not far away and watched the dwelling as the mist covered it. Just as I expected the corruption to come after me. God damn it. Forget. He showed up. I'm here. Oh, you're excited to see me, huh? Hey, I'm gonna be revealed as a very important character right now, aren't I? Something I probably called, it's like, whatever. At the very beginning of the series, it's like, all right, there's okay, well, maybe I'm jumping to the conclusion. Maybe he's still just fucking weird. I don't know. The old man who cried wolf. He'd done some strange things over loops, but always ended up dying. I'd assumed that his senility was just an act, but I still didn't know the truth. Though, it'd be very funny if he just dropped the act and he started talking normally. Though, I'd gained more reasons to suspect him recently. I'd love to expose him for who he was. I continued holding my breath and watching him. Apparently, in the hut, he was carrying around a lot of dirty cloth bags. I saw it from behind the shabby wall here. The state of the place was one of the reasons I suspected him. Could this place, which had more holes in it than the outhouse, really be used for sheltering? I'm sorry. God damn it, this picture, man. It appears so suddenly, it just catches me off guard every time. Over the many loops, I realized that there are two primary dangers here in Yasumizu. I'm sure no one else is laughing when this picture comes up. In fact, I bet this picture shows up, and anyone watching this video is like, God damn it, and they're mad because I have to bring it up now every time when I laugh about it for some reason. They're like, God, please, Austin, stop laughing at just the very standard, normal picture of the wolf. And I'm over here laughing my ass off every time for some reason. And I'm sorry. Over the many loops, I realized that there were two primary dangers here in Yasumizu. One was the bringers of corruption, as God said, the rabid dogs. And then there were the werewolf-like creatures that were probably Great Lord Shinai's servants. You could beat the former, but not the latter. Normally, the dogs upheld the order of the night. But if the rule breakers dealt with the dogs, that thing appeared, killed the rule breakers, and set things straight. I hadn't escaped that thing once so far. The dogs would definitely kill you if you slept in a place so damaged, and that was another thing I found suspicious about him. As it turned out, he really didn't have any intention of staying in his house. Yasumizu was deathly quiet, so it wasn't a good situation to try and tail him in. I had a feeling any rustling I made by moving around would tip him off. Still, couldn't just watch him leave. Ugh, whatever. I just trust that he couldn't hear that far. Even so, I got on all fours and followed him, careful not to step on any leaves or loose twigs. I climbed over a collapsed okiba, too, and I could only hope that wouldn't mean I was cursed or something. Well, if I was, I felt like God would have punished me by now. Weren't we outside of Yasumizu by now? The Yasumizu area was like a scar cut out from the land, surrounded by cliffs. Was it okay as long as we didn't cross a cliff? In that case, I really should have looked into this overgrown area a bit more. There were still many things I could try. It wasn't the time to despair. But damn, the old wolf guy seemed to know exactly where he was going. Was his hideout nearby? That sound, was that water? Was there a river here? I looked around to find the source of the sound. Felt like it was straight ahead. There was a river in Yasumizu? Wait, where did he go? It was pretty dark right about now. Had I just lost sight of him? But I should have still been able to hear him walking around. Did he suddenly vanish? Though, If he could actually do that, it would explain a lot of things about him. I had to find him. Carefully, though. Couldn't forget that he'd killed Mochi once. What if he'd already noticed me and I was walking into an ambush? That wasn't the case. He just wasn't here. I had to find him.
Masaka. No.
No way. There were two main things I found out as I walked around this area. There were no people here, and the sounds of water were coming from below. Apparently there was an underground waterway beneath here. When I stomped on the ground, it made a hollow sound. It was probably used for the paddy fields. Water came here from the settlement above and flowed out into Saranaga. It must have been dug a long time ago and was still in use today. Or perhaps this place was inhabited before? Wait, even if they could get drinking water from the wells, paddy fields needed a richer source of water, didn't they? What was its source? Again, there was no river in Yasumisu. It had only little ponds. The documents from the Nosato mansion mentioned that Yasumisu had its waters carried via irrigation from Kami Fujiyoshi. Was this it? In that case, it was a pretty major piece of property. How did they maintain it? Even if it was buried underground, didn't it get blocked every now and then? Would it be possible for there to almost be no people going in and out of it? About the wolf guy's disappearance. Could he have entered the waterway? If there was some sort of secret entrance here, and he went through it when I wasn't looking. It was already dark out, so I took out a flashlight from my bag and pointed at the surface. The dogs would arrive soon. I had to find it before then.
これか?
Is this it? There was a patch of ground that was higher than the rest. It could easily be mistaken for just an irregularity in the terrain. But if it wasn't, I put my finger in and felt something made of stone inside. It felt like someone was messing with the ground here daily. Wouldn't this open if I turned it around? I did it. The stone plate that covered the waterway was lighter than expected. I could now hear the water clearly. This waterway was unexpectedly large. A single person could easily walk through it if they crouched a bit. Had the old wolf guy gone through here too? Even if he hadn't, surviving the night by hiding here would be a new thing for me. I could try it. Flashlight in mouth, I went inside. I returned the plate, though. I didn't know if the dogs would come after me, but I could probably fool the thing. And in I went. It'd be completely dark here if I didn't have my flashlight. The water here was only about 3 centimeters deep, but the flow was pretty fast. There seemed to be lots of stones on the bottom. It was unexpectedly well designed. The hard surface made it impossible to slip, but it'd be pretty dangerous for me here if the current got any faster. I'd be carried straight to Saranaga. It'd be a water slide of death. I had to start by searching in the opposite direction. The waterway slightly curved as I continued walking. I could breathe normally, but the tunnel was extremely claustrophobic. Where was I right now? I'd walked 100 or so steps, so I had to be at least under the plaza. Suddenly, I realized something. The flow had stopped. The water that had been flowing below me was just a small trickle now. There had been a decent flow coming from up ahead. Had someone stopped it? I had a bad feeling about this. It was night. If someone was controlling the water, it couldn't have been someone from Yasumisu. I tried pushing up, but nothing happened. The stone plate from before was the only place that could move. Also, going to the surface at this time meant certain death at the hands of the wolves. I had to continue. As I pressed on, the dry tunnel began to widen. I could walk normally now. It was a large underground passage that they'd created by digging through bedrock. Like I'd expected, there was a major irrigation set up here. As I thought that, I saw a tunnel to the side. It started at about my waist level. Even if the water was running, it wouldn't flow in there. I felt like I could crawl inside, but for now, I just tried going forward. There were more and more tunnels at the sides. The main waterway became more complex with 90-degree angles and steps and stuff. When I got on a waist-high step and took a break, I heard a sound. It was coming from far away ahead. It was familiar to me. The sound of claws on heavy floor, ragged breathing, growls full of uncontainable bloodlust. The feeling that there was a pack nearby. Dogs. Crap, what could I do here? Enter a tunnel? I looked inside a tunnel and lit it up with my flashlight. I couldn't see anything inside. No, there were dogs in there too? There was no safe space here? I had no choice but to run back. That was then.
Door!
wrong? That voice.
わけの迷子か
Young and lost. I directed the flashlight at the source of the voice.
眩しい
Bright! In one of the tunnels about as high as my waist, the old wolf guy looked at me as the light made him cover his eyes.
すいません。
Gotta blind the man.
大丈夫ですか？ここは危ない。
I'm sorry. Are you okay? It's dangerous here.
ここ安全じゃ
It's safe here.
ここ安全じゃ
It's safe here.
はい。
Excuse me?
ここが一番安全じゃじゃから俺はここにおる
This is the most safe place. That's why I'm here.
本当なんですか？
Really?
そこにおったら死ぬがの
You'll die if you stay there, though. I knew it.
助けてください。
Please help.
お願いです。
Please help me. Oh, I cut him off. No. Sorry. Okay, we're gonna re-listen to both of those. First, what he said.
お願いです。助けてください。
Please help me. And then this. Sounds like someone's last breath. Me on my deathbed in 10 years. I can't even replicate that.
おいで
Come in. The old man turned around and crawled deeper into the tunnel. I was supposed to follow him, huh? I felt like I was getting close to the truth. There were many beasts behind me. I gulped and, tense as all hell, crouched and entered the hole. I had to crawl for about a minute while lighting up the old guy's ass like we were in some theme park attraction. What? Wait, what do you mean? I had to crawl for about a minute while lighting up the old guy's ass like we were in some theme park attraction. I mean, I get the first part of the sentence. You're crawling and he's ahead of you and you've got a fucking flashlight. And so I assume he's saying the flashlight's lighting up his ass, but I don't get what it means by some theme park attraction. What theme park attraction do you light up an old man's ass with a flashlight? Am I don't know. I'm gonna Google search that. I'm sure nothing bad will come up. One sec. Amusement. He used the term amusement, right? Attraction. Theme park attraction. Theme park attraction. Lighting up old man ass. First result. The world's greatest father makes an ass out of himself at a theme park. Tunnels of love? Is it talking about the tunnels of love? Do you light up an old man's ass at the tunnels of love? 10 movies with scenes at an amusement park? This isn't helping. I've never actually been inside of a tunnel of love. Like, stereotypical tunnel of love. Maybe you, like, if it's dark in there and you're riding with an old man. That's like the closest answer I can think of. I know it sounds like I'm doing a bit or a joke, but I'm confused. I'm going to be confused about it all night. I'm going to rest my head on my pillow tonight and be like, what the hell was that talking about? Sound out in the comments if you know what the hell that line means. Maybe I'm thinking about it way too hard. Maybe the answer is really simple and I'm maybe overthinking it. What does it mean? I don't know. I'll wait for a few days to go. this VOD will go up and maybe someone knows the answer. And then I'll forget that I even asked the question in the first place. Ah, there we go! With those words, he entered a larger space. I followed after him. It was a room. Neither large nor small. It was about the size of 4.5 tatami mats. It seemed to be made of wood. The humidity in here had made everything moldy. It looked like antique workmanship to me. I crawled inside. Once I stepped in, I felt something other than rock under my feet. It was really unstable. Confused, I tried to use my flashlight to see, but that was when the wolf man lit a match. A match? He used it to light up a lamp. That made the place bright. What is this? I finally realized that this place was like a literal dump. There were pieces of cloth, vinyl bags, and plastic bottles filled with liquids I didn't want to know about. Oh, that's piss. Those are piss bottles. The entire floor was covered in such things, and we were walking on them. Oh man, thinking of piss bottles, I'm not gonna say any names because I'm gonna protect names around here for such a sensitive topic, but like I was on a phone conversation with someone recently and they were talking. Sorry, that's a gross subject matter. All I'm saying is I've never once in my own car as I'm driving been like, I need to piss so bad, I need to try to find a way to take a piss in my own car. And I'm thankful I've never had to try to figure out how to do that. And I'm sorry about this subject matter. This stream's already off the rails for many reasons. But like, I was in a phone conversation with someone I guess at this point, a few weeks ago. And the topic was discussed for a reason. Again, protecting names, protecting stories. There's no way in hell this person would hear this story anyway. Part 29 or whatever we are in Raging Loop. So I feel pretty safe. I feel pretty confident about this. But but I'm also confident if this somehow got out, like, it's not a problem. All I'm saying is, thank God I've never been like, I need to go restroom so bad while I'm on the road that I'm going to try to find a bottle. That's all I'll say about that. Anyway, piss bottles aside, the entire floor was covered in such things and we were walking on them. This is so gross. This had to be the place where he slept. As I looked around, the wolf man pushed me away from the entrance. One, two, three. Then he pushed the heavy-looking stone object back over the door, shutting us in with a heavy thud. We're safe now. Safe. Sit. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. Sit amongst my piss bottles. He went deeper in and sat down on a pile of garbage, so I did the same. I felt myself sink into the floor. Oh, God. Eat! Eat here! He took something out from the cloth bag he'd brought and extended it to me. It was a bread roll inside a plastic bag, specifically one made by the most famous makers of the stuff. You could get this anywhere. However, it was weird to see it in Yasumisu. It was a settlement detached from the outside economy, so it didn't fit it at all. Yet this place seemed to have tons of such stuff. Itadakimasu. I'll have it then. I looked at the surface of the bag. It was made less than half a month ago. Wasn't even past its best before date. Where did you get it? Eat! Eat and drink this! He gave me a cracked teacup. In it, there was a transparent liquid. Don't drink that. What's this? Drink! What is this? Sake? Booze! I took it and smelled it. I wasn't sure about it. Didn't seem like alcohol, but I wasn't too sure what to think of the little bug in here. Ew. His face is like, I didn't mind drinking it, but I had to make my position clear.
助けていただいてありがとうございます。
Thank you for helping me. I came here to
僕
talk.
はあなたと話しにここに来ました。
Thank you for helping me. I came here to talk to you.
飲め。
I don't want to have a full conversation. Excuse me, a full conversation with this guy talking like this. God. Drink!
あなたはそんなふりをしているが、本当はいろいろ
I was gonna drop the act. Please. You act like you don't know anything, but you do, right? Oh!
読み耳の宴について伺いたくて来ました。
I came here to ask about the Feast of the Omi Perch.
あなたは以前の読み耳の宴で生き残った人物だ。
You
そ
survived.
のあなたに聞きたいことがあるんだ。
You survived the previous feasts. I want to ask you about that.
飲め。
Drink!
いただきます。
Okay. I gulped down the content of the teacup. That did not say teacup. Going back to that, it says cup. Cup. They're getting sloppy. They're reaching the end of the game, the translators, and then they're like, ah, fuck. Just bang that out and just type it quickly. Don't proofread. We've got no time. Erg. That was my famous piss. It was rotten, but I was able to gulp it down without vomiting.
ごちそうさまでした。狼じじいさん。
Thank you, old wolf guy.
いや、
Or should I call you?
藤吉20世帯殺しの主犯殿と呼ぶ方がいいですか？
The main culprit behind the 20 murderous Fujiyoshi break-ins. Oh shit, we got a new face. So you'd know that, eh, young one? I knew it. According to the info... Great, here we go. According to the info in the Nosato... I sound so bitter. I'm not. I'm having a fun time. Hope you are too. According to the info in the Nosato mansion, the murder incident was concluded with the trial and execution of the self-admitted culprit. However, the trial wasn't based on a thorough examination of the circumstances. One of the largest murder sprees in Japan's history was said to have been done in about half an hour and with only a kitchen knife. People of that time questioned this as well, but the confession took precedence above all and was considered enough evidence to deliver the punishment. Couldn't really blame them though. It was a time of chaos, what with the war and all. However, if you consider the idea that there were multiple culprits, some things made more sense. Due to the distance and difference in quality of life, the people of Kami Fujiyoshi didn't know much about Yasumizu and what kind of people lived there. And there was also the fact that the supposed murderer, Kihei Tochitani, wasn't mentioned in Kami Fujiyoshi at all until he turned himself in. That meant that the witnesses in Kami Fujiyoshi hadn't known about what Yasumizu's people were up to. When the police went to Yasumizu to investigate after the confession, the people only said things that supported the idea that he'd done it. This meant that the people of Yasumizu weren't aware of these actions, and that those who... Oh, excuse me, those... I don't know why I just got attacked there by Sun Yan. Apologies. That those who weren't suspected could easily have been complicit in it. The old wolf guy had been considered not of sound mind for a long time, so he'd been ignored. That hadn't changed even now, and it had gotten to the point that no one cared if he just vanished into thin air for no apparent reason. Considering his character alongside the timing of the incident, he'd have been in his 30s then, and that his mental state was just an act, I could easily conclude that he was the type of man who would commit murder. He was the true evil hiding in Yasumizu, a serial murderer who'd escaped divine punishment and survived.
なんじゃ、とうとう身車が俺を覗こうとして来させたか?
Did the Miguruma finally come to get me?
いや、それにすりゃおかしい。おめえ、 この地下道にえらく不慣れじゃねえか。あ
No, that'd be weird. You don't know jack about this tunnel, eh?
わからねえな。あおめえ警察かわけえの。あ
I don't get ya. You a cop or something, huh?
僕は読み意味の宴を阻止したいものです。
I'm someone who wants to stop the feast of the Yomi purge.
そうしそうしへへへへそら豪気なこったわけえの。
Stop! Stop! Now ain't that brave?
身車とことを構えようってか。へへへへバカなことを。
You wanna fight the Miguruma, huh? Damn fool!
読み意味の宴の直接的な黒幕が身車家だってことは知っています。
I know-
一筋縄ではいかないこともね。
I know that the Miguruma are directly responsible for the feast, and that this won't be easy.
僕はあなたの過去の犯行を暴こうとしてるわけじゃない。むしろあなたに意見を聞きたいんですよ。
I'm not here to expose your past crimes. I just need your opinion.
安水の掟のみならず藤吉の秩序を破り続けてなお生き続けているあなたにね。
You're someone who broke the laws of both Yasumizu and Fujiyoshi collectively, after all. His face kills me. He went quiet. And?
俺にゃうまみがねえなわけえの。
That ain't fun for me at all. He made an expression that was new to me, a display of unconcealed malice.
なんですって。
What? The next moment, I heard a sound behind me and turned around.
へへ来やがったか。
They're here! It was the sound of claws scratching on the boulder covering the entrance. It was accompanied by growls,
汚れの運び手。
the bringers of the corruption.
へえそこまで知っててなんで来たか計り知れねえな。
You know that much and you still came here. I don't get you. He probably wouldn't. He looks like the crypt keeper now with this face. He probably wouldn't understand if I told him that I had nowhere else to go.
こうやって石で塞いで難を逃れる気ですか。
You plan to avoid this situation by closing yourself in like this?
おうおう
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ほら今安全じゃ。食うで寝るだけの悠々自適。なんの不自由もねえ。
I'm safe right now. I just eat, sleep, and don't have a care in the world.
宴が来りゃ適当に遊んでここに隠れりゃええ。
If the feast comes, I'll just play around and hide here.
なんの不自由もねえんだよ。
I ain't uncomfortable, not one bit. I want to kind of be like, hey, if we're dropping the senile act, can you like, could you also like put your hands down? You don't have to do the whole hands up, like, you need to put them down. Probably, just put them. He intentionally twisted his laughter as his shoulder shook.
殺人事件の真相がばらされればあなただって困るはずだ。
You'd be uncomfortable if people found out about the crime, wouldn't you?
それにこの場所だって安全だとなぜ言えるんです。
Also-
いつまでも身車家の目を忍んでいられるとでも。
Also, why are you so confident that it's safe here? You think you can hide from the Miguruma for long?
忍ぶ
Hide?
なんか勘違いしとるかわけの。
You don't know shit, do ya?
身車は ことなぞとっくに知っておるぞ。
The Miguruma already know about me.
身車の目のことは知っとるのか？
You know about the Eye of the Miguruma?
ならなぜ聞いて。はは。
Sound like a goose there. Ha ha. Then why'd you ask? Ha ha. You're trying to bait me, huh? He was right. This guy was even sharper than I imagined. I'd already confirmed that the Miguruma had a surveillance network spanning all of Yasumizu. There were these tunnels, too. Scratching dogs behind me made it clear that they were commencing the feast. In that case, there was no way they didn't see this place. That meant that they knew about this man who was hiding underground. Hell, the fact that he'd been given the role of the Badger made it clear that he was involved in the feast. His situation wasn't like mine from the first time, when the Miguruma simply didn't see me and didn't put me in the feast. There could only be one answer to this.
身車家はあなたのことを知っていて宴の客としても扱っている。しかし命を奪おうとしていない。
The Miguruma know about you and use you for the feast, but they aren't trying to take your life.
あなたの死は身車家にとって不都合なんですよね。
Is that because your death would be bad for them?
へへ。よう舌が回るな。この年になりゃそれだけで羨ましい。
Heh heh. You can talk good, huh? When you're my age, even that makes me jealous.
答えてもらえませんか？
Can you answer me?
いいとも。
Stay on topic, sir.
眠気が来るにゃまだ時が早い。
Sure. The sleepiness ain't coming yet. Well now, I silently prepared myself. Oh, should I keep going? I'm trying to decide. Like I said, I want a good stopping point. We're probably not finishing like this game tonight, right? Bum, 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 bum. Well, I said I would do like maybe another 30 minutes. We can maybe get at least to the next checkpoint, right? Maybe. His story could be summed up like this. He was indeed the culprit. A serial killer who'd killed about 10 people in the incident back in the 1940s. However, the one who had the idea was Tochitanishi, the one who'd get executed. Tochitanishi was a Kamifujiyoshi person sent to Yasumizu, and though he wasn't the violent sort, being sent to Yasumizu left a deep-seated grudge. He constantly grumbled about it, couldn't get used to life here no matter what. He was an outcast to everyone except the old wolf guy. Tochitanishi often told him on the outskirts of Yasumizu that he'd get back at Kamifujiyoshi eventually.
それを俺は煽ったのよ。やりゃあええ。好きにすりゃあええ。それだけ繰り返してな。
So I threw fuel on the fire, told him to do whatever he wants and all that. If that had really been all he'd done, then Tochitani had been pretty murderous to begin with. It was bad enough that he'd actually went through with his feeble-minded friend's idea. Anyway, that led to the plan, if you could call it that, to kill as many Kamifujiyoshi people as possible. Now, on the day it was time to kill, the old wolf guy had given Tochitani lots of divine sake he'd stolen from the hall. Once they were drunk, they both covered themselves in Saranaga's mud and moved out. I asked if it had something to do with the Fushiyoshi myths, and the answer was yes. It matched what I'd learned in the Nosato mansion, that the origin of the Yomibito legends was the Yasumizu rebels. The old wolf guy was probably the reason why an ex-Kamifujiyoshi person found out about Yasumizu's legend so quickly. Anyway, Tochitani, still drunk and looking like a Yomibito, began the massacre. The old wolf guy, covered in mud himself, secretly watched as he stole valuables from the places. He mentioned that the burglary was his main objective. Since he didn't want to leave any evidence and wanted to make it seem like the massacre was a goal, he only took the bills from wallets as well as various envelopes. I had a hard time deciding whether using a mass murder to get rich was subtle or blunt. Though at that moment, something he didn't expect happened.
これがな、面白いもんでな。俺らの姿見たやつら、みんなビビって小便垂れて腰抜かしやがる。
It was damn good. Everyone who saw us was so scared they pissed themselves and fell.
誰も抵抗なんざしねえ。
No one resisted one bit.
ならやってみようか。どうせみんなあいつのせいになるならよ。
So I figured I'd try to kill them. It'd all be his fault after all.
そう思うが人ってもんだろうが。
That's the human thing to think, right?
あら、面白かったぞ、わけの。
I had a good time there, youngin'. No comment. The fact that no one resisted was related to the absolute loyalty and the faith that the Nosato looked into. God problem. Anyway, he went on to kill over a dozen people, steal lots of valuables, and escape before things escalated. As he washed off the mud, returned to his place, and looked through his spoils, he found something really noteworthy. It was a piece of paper he'd found inside an envelope with money. He quickly understood what it meant, and it was huge. Tochitanishi escaped, turned himself into the police in Tokyo, claiming it was all his own doing, and the story ended with the execution.
やつは昇進のケチでの。酔いが覚めたら自分がしたことを恐ろしゅうなったんじゃ。どうせが。
He was small and petty. He must have realized what he'd done after he sobered up.
じゃが逃げる根性だけは座っとったな。
He did have the guts to run, though. However, while the national reports on the serial killing subsided, things had started to change within Fujiyoshi. The village heads and their associates had begun visiting Yasumizu more and more often. And, for unknown reasons, more and more people were sent to Yasumizu. And, a while later, a real Feast of the Yomi Purge began. The old wolf guy hadn't participated in many conversations in Yasumizu, so only found this out during the first feast. Apparently, the Miguruma had been acting shady, and it was because they were searching for something. The something was stolen from one of the murder scenes. They talked that it might have been something necessary for the rituals, like a talisman or something. It even speculated that the Okami returned because it was lost. As the rumor mill churned, the old wolf guy was the only one who knew the truth. It was a thing he'd found, and it was something that'd be bad for the Miguruma.
何だったんですそれは。
What was it?
人飼いの証文の写しよ。
A copy of a human trafficking contract.
人身売買それは当時は。
Human trafficking? But that wasn't so uncommon back then.
おうとも珍しくもねえこった。じゃが身車が人を買っておるなど誰も知らんかった。
It wasn't, but still, no one knew that the Miguruma were buying people.
どういうことです
What do you mean?
買った人間がどこにもいねえ。そもそもやらす仕事もねえ。どこで何をしとる？え？
The people they bought aren't anywhere, and there's no job for them to do. What do you think happened to them, huh?
ろくでもない儀式だか実験だかで消費したってことですか。
They use them for their messed up rituals and experiments.
おうさえとるなわけのなんぞ知らんが人聞きの事情じゃなかろうもんよ
Oh, you know your stuff. I don't know details, but it wasn't something they wanted others to know about.
そんなもんは
I don't know which old man voice I hate more doing consistently.
ひっと漏れるのを嫌うもんじゃ
Families like the Migaruma don't want that kind of stuff made public.
じゃから宴なんつ茶番をぶちよったそうしてりゃ怖くもなんともねえへへ
That's why they started the farce of a feast. I knew that, so I wasn't scared one bit. That meant that the old wolf guy was the only one who knew that the phenomena that started it all were just a Migaruma conspiracy. It would have been bad for them if the scandal spread throughout Fujiyoshi, could potentially undermine both the local faith and their influence. They frantically debated how to preserve their secret and with it, their authority. If you looked at it from a certain angle, it was to prevent another Yomobito rebellion, so the main cause of this was basically God again. I saw how it was now. Anyway, the old wolf guy knew the truth. Thus, he'd used his guile, got hit into his targets' heads, and tried to figure out what they were doing. That was how he found this waterway.
水路が埋まっとるなんざ誰でも知っとるじゃがそれは上藤吉が管理をしとる借り物っちゅうわけよ
Everyone knows that this waterway is underground, but it belongs to Kami Fujiyoshi. They just loan it out.
じゃから安水のもんはそれがどんなもんか知らん考えもせん
So no one in Yasumisu knew what kind of thing this was. Didn't even think about it.
それでも見つけたもんはもちろんぶち殺されよったじゃろうが
Those who didn't find it ended up killed.
俺はなちゃんとな
But
段取りを踏んだ
I prepared for that. That was the core of the matter. He'd somehow established contact with Migaruma and told them that he had the contract and that it would go public if he died. If they didn't want that, they had to ensure his safety. He used the info as a hostage to protect himself. It was an action movie plot, but could it work in real life? Fujiyoshi was a small village. If he'd asked someone here to reveal the truth, if he died, they could just take care of that person too. I asked about that and he said that he had a contact in Tokyo. This was when I found out that he wasn't born in Yasumisu. He was probably like the me who tried to move to Yasumisu. He'd arrived here as a drifter and got sent there. He was pure evil, a scumbag who'd come here just to deceive people and commit terrible acts. Anyway, the villains and the prey villain met to create a villainous pact. Every year, he went outside the village and secretly reached out to his contact in Tokyo. If he didn't show up even once, his contact would reveal the Migaruma's secret to the public. And if they didn't want that, they had to keep him alive. Of course, I had questions. What would have happened if the wolf guy died a natural death, or if the Migaruma became unable to keep their end of the deal because the leader changed or something? In response to that, he said that it was a battle of wits. The Migaruma weren't actually certain that the old wolf guy's death would mean that their secret would come out. They probably didn't think that his weapon had survived a whole 60 years and made it to the modern era. Also, it was a question whether such an old scandal would deal much damage to the modern Migaruma. They were still afraid of the worst case scenarios though. To allay their fears and buy more time, they left the old man alive. It was a small price to pay for the feeling of safety. If it cost anything more though, he would have been removed a long time ago. Old wolf guy's own words. Showed a skill at negotiating particular to villains, and he was proud of it.
わかりました。つまりあなたは宴の主と密約を交わした。だからこんな場所に入っても許される。
Okay, we just got... I'll read this. I see. So you can enter this place because you're on a secret contract with the masters of the feast. I know it's a very awkward potential stopping time there, but we'll call it there. We'll call it there. That was a checkpoint. I said I would go to the next checkpoint. And I don't know how much longer this little bit is going to be. And then obviously we get the key and then go, I assume get the key and then go to, oh, it's going to be at the last thing. It's, oh. It's been revealed. This is the last bit. We're getting the key. All right, we'll get the fucking key. All right, we'll get the key. Everyone calm down. Hope you didn't click off the video just yet. All right, here we go. I see. So you can enter this place. It's going to be the ultimate cliffhanger then. We're going to get the key and then you're just going to have to wait until it might be this weekend. Probably. I see. So you can enter this place because you're on a secret contract with the masters of the feast.
さらには宴の掟に反した行動をとっても汚れは免除される。そういうことだったんですね。
And you can do things against the laws of the feast because the corruption won't apply to you. Is that how it is?
おお、面白い話だろうが。
Yeah, interesting, ain't it?
おめえだけじゃ。これまでにこの話を俺に聞いてきたのはよ。
You're the only one I ever told it to. He whispered that, then drank some rotten booze. How was I to process this? That it was possible to negotiate with the Miguruma? No way. Like I said, his deal was only accepted because of how small a price they were paying. They never agreed to stop the feast of the Yomi Purge. They wouldn't tolerate my goal. I could only achieve it by making an enemy of them. In fact, stopping the feast wasn't even my ultimate goal at this point. That meant that this time, the only thing I'd gained was physical protection in the form of this underground waterway. Oh, there was another thing. I realized that I couldn't let my guard down around this person. That was good enough for me.
それでいつ聞くんですか?
So, when will it start working?
ああ
Huh?
どうせ僕に飲ませた酒には毒でも持ったんでしょ?
I mean, the booze you gave me was poisoned, right?
何を言うとる
What are you on about?
とぼけないでくださいよ。あなたの保身が安い？そんなわけないじゃないですか。
Don't play dumb. Keeping you safe is cheap. As if.
いつ約束を破るかわからないイカれた悪人を生かしておくなんてまともな悪人ならやるわけがない。
You're an insane villain who can break the deal at any moment. No normal villain would just let you be.
どうせその辺のやりとりはまともな仲介者でも立てて双方後腐れなく終わってるはずだ。
Such exchanges normally involve a mediator of sound mind and end without anyone feeling wronged.
そしてあなたが宴で生かされるには別の理由があるはずだ。あなたの生存が彼らの計画に役立つ理由が。
And there has to be another reason why they kept you alive. It's just something that made your life beneficial to their projects.
例えば見ちゃいけないもの、入っちゃいけない場所、そういうものに触れたものを片付けるとかね。
For example, you could have been assigned to take care of anyone who saw things they shouldn't have or went somewhere they didn't belong. Having cameras wasn't enough. You also need an on-site operator to dole out punishments. Otherwise, you'd have to send out people every time it happened. It was better if less people knew about those dark happenings. In that case, it was best to leave the protection of the secret to Yasumisu's traitor. Basically, he was...
毒なんざ持ってねえよ。
There's no poison!
ちーと慣れてねえやつがしびれるぐれえだ。
It's just something that numbing for whoever's not used to it. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't feel my legs, and it wasn't because I'd been sitting for too long. As I tried not to let it show on my face, he started rummaging through the garbage. Hey, remember Well, I'll get at it later. He took out something I could never forget. It was the masked piece of the wolf outfit. After tossing it aside, he put his hand in another mountain of trash and took out something else. It was a dagger. Youngin, you're like me. That's the face of a villain. Oh man, death by old guy sucks. You see stuff, you know stuff. You must have pulled some shit outside. And now you escaped because you're bored. You remind me of me when I was a youngin'. Oh, how I wanted him to spare me that shit. The village isn't big enough for two villains, he's saying. Give up, though. I'm enough for this village. He was right. Anyway. Time for my first kill in 8 years.
あなた8年前狼だったな
You were a wolf 8 years ago, weren't you? That was fun.
そ
Stab.
の時までに確実に葬っていた狼は何人いました
How many wolves did you kill until then?
狼3匹のうちせがれだけよ。カラスのわしには分かった。
Out of the 3 wolves, only my son. I was a crow, so I knew. In the feast 8 years ago, the mist had cleared with only one of the wolves dead. If Gensun, the one who knew about the badger, was one, the third one had to be around too. It wasn't guaranteed that it was the old wolf guy, but as it turned out, the truth was always the worst possible option.
最後に
One more question. Oh, I really cut him off. I let him say that again.
最後に一つ聞きたい
And then he goes, "Huh?"
あなたは神様とは会ったか
Have you met God? He had to have. It didn't matter that he was an outsider. Even Kaori-san, who'd come here from Tohoku, had been infected by it. He couldn't have been an exception to that. If he really was a scumbag like me, admitting that he'd submitted to a god must have been extremely humiliating for him. He didn't reply.
ここは神様の庭ですよ
This is God's garden.
それだけ悪知恵が回るならあなたは遠くに逃げるべきだった
If you're that smart, you would have escaped far away from here.
あなたに未来はない
You have no future. I hoped that my words would help me get back at him a little. I didn't want to lose completely this time. But... Yo! Never mind. Ew. What a view. He laughed.
いいか、ここは神の庭なんかじゃねえ。俺の砦だ。
Listen, young'un. This ain't God's garden, but my fortress.
どこへ逃げようがよ。てめえの砦より安全
It
な
kind of looks like he's about to
場所は
reveal
ね
like
え
the
んだ
Sharon gun eye
よ。
to me or something right now. It's like he's gonna mind control me. Run wherever you want, but there's no safer place than your own fortress.
守るには砦がいる。侍の頃と何にも変わらね
You need a fortress for protection. Things haven't changed since samurai times.
え。そんなことも知らねえもんが神なんざ形のねえもんにすがって怯えんだよ。
It's people that don't get that who are scared of stuff you can't see. Like God.
それじゃあ
Then, the numbness was starting to get to my lips.
あなたは一度も神様に怯えたことなどなかったとでも。
You were never afraid of God?
神なんざ怖くねえ。
Ah, God ain't scary. There's no fakery in his words.
人が作ったもんなら殺せる。
Anything made by people can be killed. What a base statement right there. He said that and swung down the blade.
未来はねえと言ったな、わけの。
You said I ain't got a future, eh?
俺はもう95じゃ。未来がどうと、今死ぬもんに言われても、笑うしかねえわな。
I'm 95. Hearing shit about the future from a youngin' that's about to die just makes me laugh. Listen to me laugh now. Oh, he had a point. I'd really underestimated him. He was right. You needed a place for protection. And then there was his idea that you could kill God. His serpentine wisdom had let him survive for several decades all by himself. He really was pure evil. The evil I discovered many loops ago was incomparable to him. He was a true villain. Well, I really didn't mind what happened here. His fate was to die at the hands of Chiemi or Kanzo-san, one of the foolish Yasumizu people he so looked down upon. I had no reason to tell him that, but it really was humiliating to die at the hands of such a cartoonish villain. Cold sake and water. Key number 1, true evil. The old man who cried wolf turned out to be the killer behind the Fujiyoshi murder 60 years ago. He colluded with the Miguruma to assist with the progression of the Feast of the Yomi Purge. Behavior aside, I learned some things from the pure evil that dwells within him. First of all, I'll need a fortress in order to survive. And most importantly, the concept that God can be killed. Oh man. Oh man. Bad ending 1. There's a small part of me that wants to see this hint corner because it's probably the last one and probably... Yeah, it's whatever. I'm going to stay consistent. Guess it was just a dream. Do better next time. Would you? Oh, something's happening. Oh no. Oh, should I save right here? Oh, we gotta... I'm so curious what's happening here, because clearly something different is happening. But I'm gonna call it right there, because I don't know if this is gonna go into a big old thing. It might be a big old thing, it might be going into a big old thing, or it might not be. But I'm caught off guard by this, but it'll be the ultimate cliffhanger. We'll see. What does it mean? I thought we were just gonna go back to the beginning, and then we'd go over here, and then stick in our thing. But no, the game has some other idea maybe for us. Oh man, I'm baiting myself. This hurts me. This hurts me as much as it hurts you. But if it's a big thing, I don't want to. We'll just save it for the next time. If it's a winding thing, you know. I don't think this is just gonna be like 2 sentences. Fast forward to the next stream, and it is just like a little 2 extra sentences or something. I keep saving it because I'm paranoid that I'm not saving correctly. What was it? Pragmata from earlier. I had actually missed saving the game and like autosave saved me, but I'm afraid I'm gonna do that now. All right, cool. So pick this back up this weekend. I know that means a few days break from this, but I'd assume we're in the final stretch of the game. So, you know, as I always say, I like finishing games on weekends if I can help it. It's kind of a nice feeling. It's probably not even Friday. We'll probably do this Saturday or so. Saturday to give us enough time on the off chance that then it still has like a million more hours to go maybe. And then we can continue on Sunday as like an emergency if we need to. But we'll probably pick this back up on Saturday. When's this VOD come out? This will be the 24th. Okay, so this VOD comes out on Friday. So opportunity here on the off chance. You know, I don't usually say stuff like this, and it's like, you know, I leave this to you if you want to try to catch or whatever. But if you want, assuming that we have one more stream to the finale, and you care to see the finale live, this VOD will go up on YouTube, my time zone, Friday morning. So then if you're watching this on Friday, you have then probably a little over 24 hours to then make your way to my Twitch page, twitch.tv/bubmanXIV, BUBMANXIV. That's 14 in Roman numerals. If you want to find your way to my page, hit follow if you care to, or don't, but just be there. I would say hit follow because then I always do the notifications on Twitch. I use Twitch's notifications always when I go live. Easiest way to know when I go live. And you can then, in theory, if you care to, if you're like been this diehard person, let's say diehard, you've been watching all the VODs here, and you're like, I want to see it live, the finale potentially. Saturday, probably late morning or early afternoon. I can't obviously plan out a time exactly when it would happen, but probably around that Saturday. So you'd have about 24 hours to make your way if you care to see it live, if you want to. I get that obviously some people, YouTube VODs are obviously a lot cleaner and nicer and easier to keep track of, and live is hard. There's a reason why I record everything live and then I have the YouTube page, because I know I'm of the same thing. Like, hitting live times is difficult. And I'll always say this, I can see it in the YouTube stats. I always say, I don't know what I'm a very small channel, but a good portion of any of my viewer base is not in like the States. I have a good chunk of people that watch a lot of games that I do, not in like the time zones I'm in. So I know they have a much different time zone situation, which also makes everything harder. It's unfortunate, but whatever. I digress. Fun stream. Old man. I called it fucking old man. There was going to be something about him. He was going to have some important role. I called that too. Like, it was just like, he's just not going to be just a senile old man. Read that from a mile away at the very beginning of the game. Rewind in your head when I said in the series, when I was like, oh, he's going to be a thing. Now, my only prediction, basically, because I called someone else's looping and it was probably Chiemi. I called that. I called the old man who cries wolf thing. The only prediction I'm waiting to be so right on is the convenience store clerk person. There's still time. There's still time that she's like the ultimate evil or something, or sets everything in motion. Maybe she's a member of the Miguruma family. I don't know. It wouldn't be the weirdest thing, all right? She is the Miguruma family. Migurumi. I don't know. All right. I'm going to head out. I'm tired. I yawned a couple times during that reading. I apologize for that, but I'm clearly tired, so I'm also talking nonsense. So thanks for watching. As always, appreciate it. I should be back tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to be streaming tomorrow. It's probably not going to be this, though. So, yeah. Either of the Devil, more Pragmata, or... What's the other thing I'm doing right now? Oh, Nier Automata. It probably won't be Nier Automata. So it'll probably be more Pragmata or of the Devil. Okay? Great. Until tomorrow night.